Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Arwin and Sleeping Warrior. How are you both doing?
Good afternoon.
We're all good, man. We're all good.
Good to have you both.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
Did you watch Patricia's show last night with the Paul McCartney stuff?
I did.
It's fantastic. I've heard most of that before, but if you haven't seen Patricia's show from last night, go and watch it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it was good. I won't lie. I too have seen that presentation before, but it was very, very good. It had a few extra bits in it that he hadn't put in before. So, yeah, it was good. Very, very good show.
There was only one part that I didn't agree with him on, and it was a minor point, but nonetheless, it was the one point that I disagreed with him on. He said that Paul McCartney was decapitated in the car when he had the crash. That's not my understanding, or the facts. The evidence that supports that position is not correct. What happened was when he crashed the car, he was driving an Aston Martin DB5, and the Aston Martin DB5 has got a glass fuel filter so that you could see how dirty the fuel filter was without having to take tools out and stuff. And if you crash the car and smash the glass housing, because it's got a big engine, that fuel has to go somewhere and it will ignite straight away. And that's what happened in that case. It had basically a big tank of fuel, and it had a big load of fuel in the area. It smashed it, burnt, set fire to it, and if you're not conscious at the moment you crash, you're in trouble, and that's my understanding of what happened. And the other thing was that he didn't mention, or didn't hear him mention, was that the biggest piece of evidence that supports the assertion to be true is the police report that didn't get officially released, but it did go out on the black market. Did not name or identify the occupants of the car, other than to say that there was a male and a female. Didn't name them. Now normally they do name them. Because the police accident report is done significantly after the event, and it just gives the conclusions of why the accident happened, and they would normally be named. In that instance, for whatever weird reason, it wasn't.
Hello.
Wow.
So check out that show. That was on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, which is Patricia Sears' show yesterday with Mike Williams. Well worth checking out. I think she's titled it "Paul is Dead" or something to that effect. But yeah, check out Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. Not to change the subject, sorry, but you've had an interesting video yesterday, which I commented on, Anthony, about Gem Panda and, more importantly, Airy's failure. So can you kick off by telling us, or tell the audience, what the disagreement is?
Right, I was listening to the rehash or the re-upload of Issa's Hangout. Issa's not done much work recently, but he's come back on the scene. And he's done a couple of really long hangouts. And last night I was just listening to it, just chilling out. And I heard him say a couple of things, and I thought, some of this is gold. And of the best of the bad mistakes that he made was the one that I've put the video out, and you can see it on my channel. It's the most recently uploaded video. But basically, what Jeremy does is he describes the conclusions of George Airy's failure experiment. It's infamously known as George Airy's failure. He describes it as the failure to prove that the ether moved. And that's not what the experiment was about. And anybody that's in the discussion for as long as what Jeremy is can only know that the result of the experiment that George Airy did, who wasn't just some random bloke, by the way, he was the astronomer royal. He's up there. He's in the highest of the highest in terms of astronomy. He's not some Joe Bloggs with a P900. He's a credible witness. The conclusion of his experiment was he was specifically testing to see whether it was the Earth that was spinning or the stars that were spinning. And if so, to what extent? Was there an overlap? Was it one that was stationary? Was the other stationary? Whichever. And he was specifically testing that. The conclusions was that the stars were moving. The Earth was stationary. There was no movement in the Earth. However, Jeremy claimed that it was the ether that he failed to prove was moving, and that wasn't what he was testing. He was specifically testing whether it was the stars moving or whether it was the Earth moving. Now, I'm not going to go into the details for the experiment because it doesn't matter. The conclusion of the experiment was that the stars were moving, which was the total opposite point to what Jeremy had said. Now, I asked Issa why did he not pick him up on it, and Issa said I was tired, I wasn't paying attention. He said that it was one that just got under the radar, and I was like, fair enough, whatever. But I called him on it because it was the total opposite of the results, the experiment results. Now, where it gets a little bit dodgy is I called him a liar because you can't be in this discussion for 3 years and not have come across Airy's failure numerous times. I mean, we've all come across it, and it gets continuously misrepresented as an ether drag test. And this is where Jeremy would argue that he wasn't being dishonest because it was an ether drag test. It wasn't. An ether drag test presumes that the Earth is spinning and the ether is either dragged along with it, i.e. Coriolis, or is moving in tandem with it but not being dragged. In other words, the testing slippage. But in any event, who cares? The ether drag test is not the correct representation for George Airy's failure. The correct representation is that he was specifically seeing which was moving. Was it the stars or was it the Earth? And according to Malcolm Bowden, who did the video which I cited from, he concluded conclusively that it was the Earth that was stationary and it was the stars that were moving. The deceit element comes from he's been in the game for at least 3 years now, and he knows. I mean, if it were Ranty and he's only come to it in the last 12 months or so and he's only skimmed across it once or twice, that'd be a fair criticism and a fair counter. However, he's been in it 3 years and he knows what the conclusions of it was. And he's either been completely reckless with his words or he knows and he is deliberately misleading anybody that listens to think that now George Airy's failure failed to prove the stars were spinning. And that's complete misinformation. It's nonsense. It's lies. But he's going to call it an ether drag test. But that's not actually an ether drag test at all. So either way, he's screwed, and that's why I called him a liar, because he knows this, and there's no way that he didn't know this or conveniently forgot about it or misspoke based on the way he presented the argument in ESAs. So I called him a liar because I don't believe he was telling the truth, and he was deliberately misleading people.
Yeah, check out that video, Sleeping Warrior YouTube channel, or feel free to check out the original Issa Mahal Flat Earth Court 9-hour live stream.
Yeah, don't go to the 9-hour one. It was a long hangout. It took a long time to get through. So that's that one. And the other one that I thought was quite interesting. I'll tell you what I'll do. If I get kicked at some point in the hangout, I'll come back. And I'll do it through Skype because I need the sound. But Issa and what's that? Yeah, publish the link. It's fine. The other thing that they were fairly basically Issa and Cathexis were talking about the atmospheric refraction and atmospheric effects of the air in which we live in. And basically their position was, and I agree completely, their position was that there is that much going on in the atmosphere that really it's really difficult to argue and prove it either way with atmospheric observations, because there's so much effect in it. There are continuous variables that totally distort what we see. They cited Skunk Bay as the proof, and I agree. Skunk Bay shows that whatever it is that we live on, flat or round, that we see significant variation and distortion throughout the day. And they said that if you capture the right frame at one point, you could argue that. And they said. I'll come back to you in 1 sec.
Yeah, no worries. Troll attacks, they begin. So what do you know, Arwin? Anything exciting happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Well, physically not so much.
Anything exciting happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Okay, what's that? Am I still in here? Yes, I'm still in here. Oh, I just learned how to snipe. So I'm doing my best.
How's that so?
Other than that, physically
Someone shown
not
you
much
the trick, have they?
change.
I've got to be honest, I don't actually know how to do it myself, so never been a need. I've tried to avoid being in the back chat, so I don't have a requirement to snipe, and I've never been taught how to. So hopefully I'll be able to keep it that way. But I don't see any necessity when I join a show. The last thing on my mind is sniping some of the other participants. But you know, for some, that's their only intention. Like this dude here, his only objective is to snipe the hangout. But there we go. Such is life.
Yep. Well, I'm doing it. Are you seeing any results?
Yeah, well, I'm battling the trolls with you. I mean, I don't, like I say, I can just eject them from the hangout itself, but not from the back chat because I'm not in it. But yeah, I meant more on a flat Earth terms. not that sniping isn't flat Earth related, as it is a battleground on this show at the moment, or with one particular individual who wants to quote end my show, but in reality just wants to come on and talk. Sad.
Hello.
He wants to.
Yeah. So people who claim they want to end the show get really sad when I don't let them on to speak. So they spend their entire day sniping or trying to snipe the show. It's like it will always continue. The only bit that gets any interruption is the public part, the bit you two are currently in. So the bit that anybody can join. So, you know, eventually, like yesterday, it just gets forestalled onto Skype. You're like, wow, so what? You know, it's a couple of minutes work for me each time it happens, but it's not the end of the world. The show does go on. So this person's just literally entertaining themselves by doing what they're doing. You know, it doesn't actually achieve very much other than a couple of minutes work for me, which, so what? That's that day's show.
Right. So, hey, is this a real RF? I think it could be. Oh wait, there's two of them.
Oh wait, there's two of them.
So we're now being infested, and we had to kick the real Arev because we had Arev and the sock Arev join at exactly the same time. But there we go.
Is RF on Skype, by the way?
I've asked Arev several times. That said, I haven't checked my email in the last day or two. So, you know, Arev, drop me an email, nathanoakley1980@aol.com, and I'll just add you to Skype. There's a couple of others. I asked Nummy to drop me an email as well. Generally, people I like, I'll hand out my email, and then they can contact me, and I'll have them on Skype, and then they can come back in if they get sniped. But Arev, I really like Arev. So, you know, I'd like him to have him back on when he gets sniped, if he gets sniped. But in most instances, because there's an active Arev sock, the guy never gets to join. You know, he just joins and then immediately gets kicked out, like this guy. Yeah, because it's basically the same guy. But there we go. Anyway. Are you familiar with Airy's failure, Arwin?
Yeah, I've heard it mentioned many times before, so I had heard of that.
You know the essence of the experiment, what they did, what he did?
Yeah, sort of. I think that he basically put a tube up to see how the starlight would be moving within, during the motion as the star passes by, and yeah, that was basically the setup of the experiment. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the exact details of how it is supposed to work, but I do understand what it was supposed to prove. And yeah,
well,
it's
in essence, he does this experiment
specialty.
with a 5-degree tilt or whatever the angle is. It's not really that relevant. Look it up. But if you fill the scope with water and the Earth is moving, you would have to increase the tilt of the telescope to account for that. Whereas he fills it with water and doesn't have to change the angle. In other words, the starlight that's entering the telescope is not moving. It's is moving, and the telescope itself is fixed. So the actual angle of the light does not change, even though he's filled it with water, proving that the Earth is stationary and the lights above us are moving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff.
So there you go. That's Airy's failure. And Anthony's right, he was the Astronomer Royal. You know, this isn't just some Joe Schmo doing an experiment. This is the Astronomer Royal doing it. So there we go.
And as far as I know, it hasn't been debunked. Jeremy he relies on this. The ether's never been proven thing, and he says that it's a presupposition that it exists in the first place. Who cares? It's an irrelevant point whether it exists or not. Point is the starlight was moving and the Earth was not, regardless of whether or not the ether exists. So he can dwell on the ether existing point as long as he wants. Who cares? Point is the Earth turned out not to be moving and the starlight was moving above us. And unless anybody can prove otherwise, he did use the word prove. He did follow the scientific method. The results were published in a journal. And ultimately, unless somebody can prove something that superseded it, showing that he got something wrong, it seems to be good science. And Jeremy quoted the exact opposite.
Can I just read Glenn McIntosh's comment? At Sleeping Warrior, have you read Airy's actual review of the experiment? Question mark.
Yeah, he described it as he was testing the apparent, and he uses the word apparent because that was the key point. He says that he was testing the apparent stellar aberration of light and found that there was none. So the answer to the question is yes, I have read the actual review, not the review, the journal. And it's quite clear that what he wrote in the review or in the journal was quite clearly saying that it was the light moving, the Earth was not. Why people misrepresent it as an ether drag test as a direct consequence, it can only be to fudge the math, to try and make it to sound grey area, to try and deliberately muddy the waters. He made it black and white. Black and white. So unless Glenn McIntosh has got some other reason for why the apparent stellar aberration of light was not found to be there, then there's an issue. Or did I get that the right way around then? I think I might have said that. He said that he was testing the apparent stellar aberration of light. Let me get it up. I had it up. I'll get it up and I'll read the words verbatim. I'll keep my eye on the back door as well. Airy's failure journal.
Yeah, so besides that official scientific experiment, there's another one that anyone can do, and that is basically spin up a gyroscope and keep it at a constant speed, and then just leave it there in the exact same location. And if the Earth is moving in any way, whether it would be rotating around the center as a disk, or if it would be rotating around the axis as a globe, then the centrifugal force would force that gyroscope to stay in place, in its exact place, not adapting to the center point of the gravity, as the ballers falsely like to suggest. And that's also a proof, because if you spin up a gyroscope, it's going to stay exactly as it is. So that's another proof that anyone can do very easily to prove that the Earth is stationary.
It's one of those things that it doesn't necessitate any proof, in my opinion. It's bloody obvious. Link should be in the info box, Joshua. Try refreshing your page if you've not got it.
I can't find the actual paper now. I can find it if I have to, but I'll find it at some other point. But even if there was a discrepancy in the paper, I cited Malcolm Bowden as the authority for the reason why it was the Earth moving. So I'm passing on the message from him. So if there's a semantical argument, take it up with Bowden. I'm happy with what he says. It makes perfect sense to me. I understand it, and it's the opposing position to what Jeremy said. It isn't an ether drag test, which is what is commonly cited it is, and it isn't. It's just not true.
I'll get Joshua joining in a moment. Don't kick him if he does.
Joshua. Yeah, I have read it, Glenn. And I'm from memory from years ago. It says, quote, he was testing the stellar aberration of light, which he found there was none. It was the Earth that was stationary. The stars were the ones that were moving. Words to that effect. Don't quote me exactly on it. Well, that was what it said from memory. I'll have to find it. It's not something I can put my fingers on straight away. It is out there, but you've got to go digging for it. I'm looking at one where someone's asking for the Airy's failure in a journal, and they give a different citation for a different experiment. Seems to be disinformation. Anyway, shout out to Chris MCM. To address your comments yesterday, I saw Chris's comment yesterday where he said, I thought Sleeping Warrior had sorted this out. I had sorted it out, but I tried to speak to Dawn to be able to convey the message to you because at the time you were half cut and I didn't want to speak to you while you were half cut. So I tried to speak to Dawn instead, and Dawn was too busy involved with a conversation with Cathexis that when I asked him to get back to me, his literal words were, can't be arsed, mate. So because of that response, I never got a chance to be able to speak to either of you, and you didn't get the message conveyed, which was the compromise or the negotiation on behalf of Nathan. So you got yourself to thank for being half cut at the time, then you had a power cut. You got Dawn to thank for basically not getting back to me when I asked him to. And had either of them things not happened, then it would have been different. But
Oh, have I lost both my guests? Let's see.
no, I'm in.
I'm still here.
Put a stronger gate on.
Debbie Duran, is that a real?
I don't think so, because she had an icon on her. She had an icon on her avatar when she joined yesterday. Yeah, put a stronger gate on the Hangout channel now, so it just cuts to nothing much quicker. But it sounds like suddenly there's silence. I'm just getting used to it.
Yeah. Well, look, like I'm not as much exploring around as to what is happening on the flat Earth scene, and yeah.
Lies.
Yeah, that, and it's mostly just psychological stuff, and I'm very interested in that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm more passive now, I guess, and I'm always happy to basically scrutinize information or discuss my model, or yeah, if somebody claims certain things, then I will analyze that claim and then give my opinion or my insights on that. So yeah, but I'm not really doing any specific research into any subject momentarily. Yeah, I got some concepts yesterday. Yeah, that's about 5 minutes, and that's it. And yeah, I'm dealing with some other weird stuff, vision related, but it doesn't have anything to do with the flat Earth at all. And yeah, I don't feel really like I should be throwing the details of that out here.
Hey Josh, good to have you.
You know what will happen now? This will not turn out to be him.
No,
It'll
it
be a
will be.
sock.
He's turned his camera back on immediately, and that's what Josh tends to do. Hello, Josh.
Yeah, it's me. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to have you.
How's everyone?
Interesting feet. You have shoes on or just socks then?
No. That's the back of my laptop. Is it doing that thing? Okay, very good.
No,
Hi.
I could see your feet on the carpet, but I couldn't tell if they were shoes or trainers or if they were socks.
Just shoes on. I've got my shoes on in my house. What do you got on your feet, Anthony?
I got socks.
Comfy, Anthony.
Me too.
So you must be Australia then.
Everyone's comfortable. Yes, I am an Australian. I can tell you all about the southern skies and the southern hemisphere and all that sort of stuff. But actually, what I wanted to join about is something that I've been thinking about the last few days. I heard one of your debates the other day when you were talking about gravity, etc. And the one question that I kind of had was that do you guys actually believe in war?
Do we believe that it is real?
War,
Yes.
W-A-R.
War,
Grandad.
W-A-R. Do you believe that in the last 100 years or so, it's been quite horrible, and there's been world wars, and there's been horrible things that have happened across our nations. I almost think that some of you guys over there in the UK there, I mean, maybe you've got very first-hand experience of war, and if you remember when you were kiddies or when your dads and things were involved. I mean, do you believe in that sort of stuff?
Well,
Sure.
I'm aware that there was a couple of world wars where a lot of people died. Reasons not sure about. I know it's something to do with Hitler being a naughty boy, but who knows? I know a lot of people have been killed in the name of war. Does that mean that the merits of the war were right? Who knows?
I think Josh
Well,
is actually
no,
asking
not
specifically,
so much.
do you believe in war specifically? As in, do you think war is a fictitious, invented thing? Am I correct, Josh?
Oh, sorry, Nathan. I was talking. I didn't hear you say anything. Sorry.
It's all
go
right.
ahead.
So I think what you're trying to say is war is overall something that hasn't actually happened. It's completely fictitious. Is that what you're postulating? We think.
No, I'm actually asking you guys. I firmly believe that the world wars happened, and that historically we can actually look at those events, and pretty much what they tell us happened. Pretty much. I'm not saying everything, but I think all of us, at least in our dads or our dads' dads, we can all attest that we at least knew someone in our families that have been to war, right? Do
Okay,
we
I mean,
all just
I mean,
at
that's
least
probably-
agree on that?
That's probably where I would disagree. So in terms of what information we have about the whys and wherefores, I would probably assert the total opposite. The most of it's lies. However, the fact that people died on battlefields, my grandfather was a conscientious objector, and he drove an ambulance on no man's land. So I can definitely tell you that people died during war. So from that point, I would agree. From the point of view that we know what happened and why it happened because of the information we're given, nah, definitely wouldn't agree. But how do you link this to gravity?
Okay, simply this is that historically, as we know, for like thousands of years, or as our history tells us, that generally the people that had the better technology won the wars. Right, the people that turned up to a knife fight with a gun, they won the wars. Do you guys?
No.
Are you guys with me so far?
No, they
Not
won the
necessarily,
battle.
but I'd agree with you in principle, yes. People with the better tanks won. Yes, I agree.
So I guess what I'm trying to
I
point out
disagree.
is that
No, they won the battle.
The science had so much to do with shaping our history and where we are and what's even happened right now. Like back in the day, I mean, do you guys sort of think that those little mortar rounds, where the people have got the tiny little mortar cannons and they're trying to take out guys on a trench 150, 200 meters away, these guys, they had to know about gravity. They had to know how their bombs were going to fall and their trajectory. Yeah. They had to know this stuff because that meant that they would win.
Yeah.
So what would you hold on? So what do you think science is?
I'm saying that the most informed people with the most technology generally have won the wars that have happened in our world.
And you use the word science. So what do you think science is?
Science is the application of understanding the physical world.
No,
that's engineering.
Of the natural world.
Okay, sure. Hey, Arwen, I'll go there with you. So the engineers, the guys that were making the bombs, that were developing the weapons to try and defeat the enemy, it was a very intense time. And those people that had the little bits of technology that were better than the other guys, they did well, and they beat the other guys. Right. And so I was just listening to a debate the other day. I can't even remember who it was, but someone was sort of talking about gravity and can't do gravity and can't whatever. But the wars that have happened have had to have had complete understanding of how stuff worked. What would happen if you dropped a bomb out of a plane? They needed to know exactly
but
how
the gravity
long.
constant is very well established. It's
you're-
been figured out. It's
confusing
just
two
that
things. So
the whole
hold on,
concept
Arwen.
of gravitational
We've got a conflation.
pull.
Hold on, Arwen. We've got a conflation. Understanding technology is not the same as science.
I think it is though, Nathan. Like if
Well,
I was in a
Well, you can think what you like, Josh, but science is a study of the natural world. The development of bombs doesn't come into studying the natural world, I'm afraid. It's just that's developing technology.
sorry, Nathan. I was speaking again. I actually didn't hear what you said.
That's okay. So you're confusing the two different things. We've got a study of the natural world, and we've got technology. The two are different.
Well, yes and no, but Nathan, just say you and I were in a bomber, and we were trying to drop a payload on a town that was threatening our way of life, and it was you and me up in the bomber, and we had to get the most effect out of this bomb that we dropped. We wanted to explode 100 meters above the city. That's where we wanted this bomb to explode, so it would do its most damage. And so we're cruising at 15,000 feet, and we have to calculate where we are and how long it would take to set the timer, the fuse on the bomb, to figure out how to make it just explode 100 meters above the city. Now, at that point, I personally would just introduce maths, and I would introduce our understanding of gravity working at 9.8 meters per second. How would you have determined how that was going to explode 100 meters above the city?
It makes no difference. You're conflating technology and the understanding of munitions with science, which is a study of the natural world. The two are not the same, and you're saying, well, because one is very accurate and we have a very good understanding of munitions, therefore science has proven gravity. Well, that's just total non sequitur conclusion.
I wasn't actually saying that. I was actually just asking you, Nathan. So it's just you and me. We're in the bomber, and we're at 15,000 feet, and we need to explode a bomb 100 meters above a city. How would you go about figuring out how to do that?
The way they work things out like that is through trial and error. They do a lot of testing. But you think that they just applied the theory and then they never bother to test it? Like the Wright brothers.
What theory?
You know, the Wright brothers didn't have the Wright brothers didn't have any special theory of flight. They just trial and errored the shit out of it. They just kept trying.
They looked at Leonardo's drawings, and they looked at bird wings, and they figured it all out. The Aboriginal Australians figured out boomerangs, and that is literally the only thing they ever figured out.
Yeah, so they start out with some constants that they know, like what you're calling gravity, which is just the tendency of things to accelerate in the downward direction at a given speed, which isn't what gravity refers to at all. Yeah,
That's exactly what gravity is.
No.
And the only reason here is to try and understand why you don't accept gravity.
Because gravity refers to the generalized attraction between all masses. And
that's
the only
gravitational pull.
Let's pull all that back. So I'm so sorry to cut you off, but let's pull all of that back. And can we just go to the wartime scenario that I just offered? Where all we're trying to do is drop a bomb on someone.
Yeah,
that's all we're trying to do.
They're gonna use those baseline constants. They're gonna trial and error. No, then they're gonna trial and error the technology. They're gonna do a lot of tests. They're gonna go and do dry runs, and see how can we get this thing to explode 100 meters above the ground. They're gonna keep testing. They're not gonna just try to come up with some all-encompassing theory of how things fall and then just
why not?
No, but that testing is timer-based.
There's too many variables.
It does work.
That's just not how it's done. You just asked how it's done.
That's not science.
But the trajectory of ammunition, that is definitely gravity is applied.
What did they even ballpark it at? They were cruising the and they just
How
decided
am
to drop it. Oh,
I don't know
give it 10
that,
seconds.
and you don't know that either, and it doesn't
No,
matter.
I do
In the
know that because
trajectory
I
of
know
know
the- you
ammunition,
know what they- you know
gravity is
gravity.
applied.
Very first bomb test ever was.
Curvature
You know
is not
what the
applied.
what? You don't know
Oh, hold
anything
on,
about
Owen.
it.
There's,
No,
hold
you
on.
don't.
There's 3 people talking all at once, so just try to
Okay,
keep it one
sorry.
at a time.
There was only one person talking.
No, they use trial and error to develop technology. They don't rely on theoretical science.
That's just wrong.
No, that is not
No,
correct. They
What
combine
kind of
it. They
comment
do
is
trial
that?
and error with timer
they just
mechanisms.
randomly do things.
No, I'm not saying they randomly do things. I'm saying that they know that things fall at a certain rate.
Afternoon,
They don't need
Hello.
to get into the causal mechanism of gravity in order to develop how to drop things.
Hey, Mark, how you
That
doing?
is correct.
And-
That is correct.
And
It's
gravity
just-
refers to the
false.
general attraction
Gravity is
between
applied
all
to
masses.
trajectory
Like
of
the
ammunition.
significance
Doesn't
of
mean
gravity
that it has
is
to
that
be
it's
gravitational
supposed to be
pull.
holding together the galaxies and the solar system, as well as causing things to fall on Earth.
You told me a moment ago that I was conflating things, and now you are. You're talking
No.
about solar systems and all sorts of
Yeah, no,
stuff.
this is what this
I'm
theory of
literally
gravity.
just talking about one event and trying to drop a bomb in the right spot.
This is what this theory of
All
gravity
I'm talking-
purports to explain, and what it purports to unify an explanation of all these different phenomena that we can see and observe.
He's not talking about
but
that.
that's the
though. He's
modernized
just
I
talking,
know, but that's
just
what
talking
gravity is.
He's
That's what
not the
gravity
original
means.
concept of
He's
gravity.
just talking about. He's
No, but
just
this is
talking
what-
about, dropping
I
bombs.
know, but he's saying we have to know what gravity is. But I'm saying that's what gravity refers to. This things merely falling down on Earth is just things falling down on Earth. It's not gravity.
Why not?
Yeah, but
It
if
is
you wanted
gravity.
something to fall down
it
on
is
Earth
gravity.
in the
It's
exact
not gravitational
right spot,
pull.
at the exact right height, how would you? And you're just saying the only way to determine that is just trial and error.
Yeah.
That I can't believe
Yeah,
you're
you
saying
test.
that. Like,
You
that's
test it.
okay.
You test it.
Okay,
See how things work, and then you work from there.
I'm going to not talk to you anymore because that's ridiculous.
Well, the problem
Okay.
is that people can drop something at the exact right spot at the exact right time, place every single time after time,
No, they
without trial and error.
They pre-calculate the fall using the
can.
gravity
They can.
concept, the constant, not the theory of what's supposed to cause it, but just the gravity acceleration concept. And then they set the timer
you believe in
based
gravity now,
on that calculation. That is how they did that.
You believe in gravity now, Arwen?
Oh, I believe it now. I've only been defending it for like half a year. Come on.
Do you believe in gravity? Do you believe in gravity, Arwen?
Yes, yes, I believe in the gravity
You believe
constant.
in gravity.
Yes,
Why?
because it's there.
This is
But no, it
great.
isn't.
This is
There's
actually
No,
this
it is
actually all
there,
I
and it
came on
can
to
be
hear, is
proven
just
to
hear
be
some of
there.
you people
Doesn't
accept
mean
the
that
fact
we
there
then
is
automatically
gravity, and
There
should
you
isn't
believe it.
assume the
gravity. There's
theoretical
no demonstration
idea of what
general
causes it,
attraction
because
between
that
the
is
masses.
the falsehood. Gravity is there. Gravitational pull is fiction.
There's no
Arwen disagrees
evidence of a
with
generalized attraction between masses. There
Yeah,
isn't.
Arwen
exactly.
disagrees
That is
with you.
correct.
Well,
I
he's
agree
allowed
to
to
that.
disagree.
Doesn't mean that gravity
then-
does not exist.
Yeah, that's what gravity refers
No,
to.
Hey,
that's
Waz, how
not
you
what
doing?
gravity is. That's what gravity became
You hear us,
when they
Waz?
grafted on the gravitational pull fiction.
No,
Doesn't mean that gravity
was
as
not
a
used
concept,
in that way
as a
before that.
physical, measurable concept does not exist, because it does. It has.
I know, but when they
existed,
coined this
and
term
it has
gravity,
been
it was
used
when they
in physics for very,
no
very
gravity
long
wasn't
time.
used before that
Yeah,
It was.
to refer to just
They
things
may have
falling.
called it something
Yes.
else.
Did you know?
They used the
Sorry, I don't know
concept.
what your name was, whoever you are, but did you know? Do you know how they used to make bullets? How they used to make? They called it shot. How they used to make shot. Do you know? Do you know how they used to make that?
Yeah.
No, what does
I
that
do.
have to do with it?
Why? Because they drop it.
Because
So
what
what?
they did is
They drop it.
they were. I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you've probably got some in your town somewhere. Maybe they've been pulled down or something. But they were called a shot tower, and they're a big tower, maybe 50, 60 meters high, and they would basically just drop a blob of lead down from the top, a blob of molten lead. And
Yeah,
as it fell,
I
it
don't
would fall
care.
into a sphere. What do you mean you don't care? This is how wars were won and lost back in the day.
I don't care how wars. It has nothing to do
you
with
are here.
whether gravity exists or not.
They
It's
dropped,
literally
they
nothing.
dropped the lead.
They would
Yeah,
drop
I know.
the
I
lead,
accept
and
that
it
things
would
fall
form the
down.
sphere
Yes.
on the way
That's
down.
fall
and
down.
That's
Yeah,
called
well, that's-
gravity, Gumby.
No, it isn't
Things-
called gravity.
yes,
Gravity
yeah, it
is
is.
the
all
generalized
things drop
attraction
down
of all
thanks to a
masses.
combination of their weight
Woz, can
and
you
the
hear us?
gravity.
Can you hear us,
No,
Woz?
gravity is the general attraction of
Hello,
all
good to have
masses.
you.
No,
All
good.
that's
Yeah.
gravitational
Not just-
Yes,
pull.
we hear you.
Okay. Thank you.
The theory of gravity refers to the idea that all masses are attracting each other through some mechanism.
No, that's
do you think,
gravitational
I'm
pull.
so sorry. What is your name? Sorry, mate.
My name is Nummy Num.
Nummy Num. Okay. Do you think that never in the thousands of years of human history that people have never used the fact that things fall down to their advantage?
Yeah, of course they've always used that, but that's not what gravity is.
And I'm sorry, I'll bring it up again. We're done. That's stupid. That's a ridiculous thing to say.
It isn't.
That's the
Gentlemen,
name.
hello.
That's the
Can you hear
name
me?
that was given to
Hello.
the fact that things fall down.
No, it's the
Yeah, it
it's the
is.
theory of the attraction between all masses.
That came
That's
later
gravitational
in
pull.
Well,
history.
that's what the contemporary idea of gravity
No,
is.
but we're talking
No,
about
that's
before the-
gravitational pull.
Oh, so we're
and
talking
they
about some
basically
ancient idea.
They
of
basically
gravity.
stanced it into
No,
the
we're
word
just
gravity.
talking about the idea that things fall down, and that has
Yeah, I
always
agree
been called
that
gravity.
nobody's going to dispute that things fall down. Nobody.
Yeah.
What
You
do you
guys-
call it?
guys,
then,
you realize that-
Nummy? What do you call it?
I
What's
call
your,
it
what's
a
your
do I
word
call
for
it?
that same phenomenon?
What do I call that same
If
phenomenon?
you were underwater,
Yeah.
guys, if
I call
you
it
were
things
underwater,
falling, the tendency
we
of
would
things
be
to accelerate in the
discussing
downward direction.
live.
And do you know what? Do you know other people had that name? They said, "Oh, the thing that causes something to fall in the downward direction," and they just shortened that because it was like texting. They just shortened it down and they abbreviated it just to gravity.
Yeah, but at this point, since it refers to a theory that's unproven that there's an attraction between all masses, I think
I'm
that
not talking about that. No one's talking
That's
about
what
that. We're
gravity
just
is.
talking about things.
That's his
that fall-
point. If you've got it with a label for a specific effect that you guys have for the attraction of masses to each other, and you're saying, well, we'll ignore that definition, that doesn't matter because we want to go back to the ancient definition where it's just things fall and we call it gravity. Well, that's nonsense.
Oh yeah, because
No,
flat
that's
earthers
not nonsense.
hate
That's
things that
actually
happened 100
getting
years
back
ago.
to real science. I disagree there, Nathan.
Real science asserting
Yeah,
that
real-
you see something
it's
fall
part of-
and
it's an
calling it
engineering
gravity.
concept.
That's
The
about as far
gravity
away from
concept-
science as you can get. So no, that's not
exactly
science.
what
Not in the
science
slightest.
starts off with.
What do you guys call it underwater?
Hey, Arwen, you,
should ask
are
him.
rocking it right now, man.
Discuss
Thank
the
you.
underwater
You
problem
just
here.
agreed with gravity. This is a win right here.
No, okay, listen. The scientific sense of downward acceleration of terrestrial bodies due to gravitation of the Earth first recorded in the 1620s.
Yeah,
So
well,
just before
due
just
to
before Newton
gravitational
published his
pull, that
Principia.
part can be
I just
left
looked it
out,
up.
and then you
I just
have a
looked it
truth there.
So it has not
Because-
always referred to the tendency of things to fall in the downward direction. You're wrong. And it's always meant the attraction between bodies. It's basically
No,
all
that's
of its
not-
uses
no.
since Newton. Yeah,
What are you gonna-
1620s.
Newton can screw
Look,
himself.
I've not
But
even.
do you know when
researched
you know
it,
when
but I'm just
Principia
going
came
to
out?
assume
Do you know
that
what year
grave
Principia came out?
and gravity have got something in common. So it was down. So if you were in a grave, you were in the dirt. You were dead.
No, that's not what
That's
gravity.
what they called gravity.
No, that's not. It comes from the French.
I'm making that up. I'm going
theory.
to look it up now.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've already done that, so I already know
You
you're
want
going
us
to be
to
wrong.
call it
You
the
looked
theory
up
of
you looked up the
gravity,
Latin roots of the word gravity.
Yeah. And it was adopted into the English language through French, where it meant dignity. It meant weight, but more in the sense of seriousness and thoughtfulness. From
Heavy or seriousness? Well, I
From
guess
heavy
death
or
and
pressure.
being in a grave is serious.
okay, well, but the grav doesn't come from grave. It doesn't have a common root. It doesn't matter if it does, anyways. I'm just saying that
Grave
your
danger.
idea that they always called the downward direction gravity is bullshit. It was first used in the 1620s, 40 years before Newton wrote Principia.
Look, Nummy Num, you've taken this somewhere far different from where I was going anyway. All I want to do, and I can't believe Arwen has agreed, but he has, that gravity.
I don't know
is
why
the
he's
name-
agreeing with you. It's
He
weird.
is gravity is the name of the thing that makes things fall to the ground.
No, it isn't.
No, it's
Yes.
nonsense.
It's the name
Yes,
of
it
the
is.
attraction
Exactly.
between all masses.
I've been
it's the
defending this for
name
half
of
a
the
year. I got a
theory.
dedicated hangout about
It's
this
the
where I
name of the
explain this
theory.
exactly.
That's a different gravity.
It's the name of a theory that claims that there's a general attraction between all masses. That's what gravity is.
That
That's
came
not
later.
gravity.
That's
love.
what they
man. That's
made
love.
it into.
So
That's what they made
what's
it
your
into
word?
to
Hey, Nummy Num, what's
declare
your
that
word?
they
When something
know
falls off your
what
table and
causes
hits
it.
the ground,
And you don't
what's
need
the
to know
word
what
in your
causes
head that
is
you
to
think happened?
detect the effect.
Fall.
Density.
No,
Den-
it's just a
density.
constant. It's there. It's
That's
measurable.
buoyant.
They can.
No, I'm not. I don't
They
say. I
can
didn't say
determine
density.
what
Arwen,
it
just
is
let me,
like.
Let me
That
just
doesn't
have this
mean that they
dialogue here
then
for a second.
automatically should know what causes it. That's arrogance.
No, I say
They
if
don't
something
know what
falls,
causes it.
it's called falling.
Why does it fall?
We don't know. It's a mystery.
You don't know.
I don't
No,
know.
hang on.
You don't
You
know.
can
don't
call
know.
it falling,
No,
but
you have-
falling
modern
you have
science
an
does not have
as
an
described,
explanation of the
doesn't
causal
isolate
mechanism of
the
gravity
specific
either.
effect.
Do you have an
Falling
idea?
happens
I
not
can
just
answer that.
automatically. If something is lighter than the air surrounding it,
We're
it's
back
not
to
going
three
to fall.
people.
Arwen,
Hold
doesn't
on.
cut
We've
it.
got three people. We've got Nummy Num, Arwen, and Josh all talking at the same time. No one can hear anything.
I was just asking Nummy Num what makes it fall, what he thinks makes it fall.
Don't know.
I can answer that. The object, if
I
it's
can
able
You've
to
answered.
move.
You're answering for Nummy Num. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not answering for Nummy Num. He said he doesn't
Oh.
know, and I said I can answer that. So I'm answering for
Oh,
me.
okay.
I'm not answering for Nummy
Okay.
Num.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
If
Go
an
ahead.
object is free to move, it will naturally try and get to its natural state of equilibrium. It will displace anything below it if it is denser than the medium it's in. An object will fall because it's displacing the medium it's in because it's denser than it.
What if there's
Objects have
what if there's-
desires.
What
Since
if
when?
there's
but-
nothing to
Yeah,
displace?
but Anthony,
You mean like
that
in a
only
vacuum?
works if
A
in a
vacuum
normal
would be
situation.
a
Because
good
if you
example.
are
Arwen,
on a
Arwen,
plane that's
wait.
diving
Arwen's
down, it's actually not
Let's
going to
wait
do
for
that.
Then the
Because
vacuum would have
the
a
constant
zero.
apparent force of gravity is then countered, and then things float freely despite their density. That's the whole thing. Like, something being heavy doesn't make it fall. It's the combination of the weight difference between the things, the density difference, and the constant of gravity that is ever present in this world.
What's
that's
weight?
just-
That is what it is.
What's
It
weight,
doesn't mean
Arwen?
that it's
What's weight?
gravitational pull.
Arwen?
You guys are confusing me now.
Arwen, what's weight?
You guys are very confusing now. One
Weight's
guy's saying there's
mass.
gravity, the other guy's saying it's displacement.
Density.
Displacement is an effect. Gravity is, the theory of contemporary theory of gravity explains a causal mechanism.
Oh, now you're saying something else. Now you've
No,
got
but
three
I don't
people with
care
different
for
theories
that
on why
theory
No,
things
I
fall.
was-
gravity.
yeah,
Only
that's
care
fine,
for
though.
the
That's allowed
constant, the thing
to
that is
debate.
there.
And you don't know the answer either, so it's okay for people to have different points of view on this, considering that nobody can prove anything about it
How would we decide which one is right?
through careful
That's-
scientific testing.
It's called the scientific
Oh,
method.
okay.
Did you go and look it up, Brenda? We had this conversation
So we
yesterday.
could go. So
Scientific method.
We
And-
could.
Did
Has
Neil
anyone applied
deGrasse
the scientific
Tyson use the
And-
scientific method, guys?
No, he just dropped a microphone and asserted it was gravity. Pretty much the same thing that Brenda did. Just watch things fall and say it's gravity.
Well, we could test to
We
see
can
which
watch
one
things.
is right.
We can watch things fall and call it density, but has that been scientifically tested or methodly
Yeah,
tested?
that
What do you call
displacement
it?
and density and buoyancy are tested. Those are effects. They're not causes. Those are demonstrating effects. It's just like
Yeah.
demonstrating falling.
The
Doesn't-
effects of
does
what?
not-
What are
Yeah,
the,
but
the
put the
effects
same
of?
setup in a centrifuge, and it works differently because there's another force applied to it.
What
Put
is
it
the-
in a
what is the
plane
effect
diving
of-
down at a certain
what is-
speed, and it doesn't do the same thing because the
Number-
force of gravity
someone was
or
saying
the
before that everything's got a
assumed force of
displacement
gravity
value.
is countered. So
it's the effect of the tendency of
useless.
things
It's
to
useless.
accelerate in the downward direction.
Density, buoyancy,
Hey, no,
it requires gravity
So there
to
is a
actually
direction.
function the way it does.
They
I think
actually
there's a
found out that it fell at the same rate.
It's in the
Sorry, can you
formula.
repeat that?
You told me before about trial and error. That was the only way they could figure out bombs dropping at a correct height. It was trial and error. Do you think after many trial and error, someone actually, some bright spark figured out that there was an actual relationship?
And between what?
Between when you drop something and when it hits the floor.
Yeah, of course.
And
That's
so
not-
what is that? What is that? What is that? That
Well,
one
finding
single
that out-
relationship.
Yeah,
Finding that out
I don't know.
requires systematic experimentation, not systematic trial and error. You have to have controls, you have to have an independent and a dependent variable, and then you conduct systematic experiments. You don't just throw
Sure.
things out of a plane and call it gravity.
Well, you could
No,
drop
Nathan,
things
apparently
different ways.
Num says that you just throw things out of a plane and you keep doing it and you keep trialing and erroring it until you figure it out. That's what he
No,
just
that's
said.
not, no, you're
that's not how you
misrepresenting
do
what
that
I'm
at all.
saying. You said if you wanted to get a specific effect, like having a bomb blow up 100 meters above the ground, with all the variables that go into the bomb, like having to deal with its payload, the rate at which the plane that you're throwing it out of is moving and all of that, to make all that work, that would require a lot of trial and error, and that's how they would do it. But this idea that to just observe that there's a consistent effect of dropping things and having them fall at a specific rate is complete. Yeah, that's
but-
also something that you trial and error to determine.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm pretty
Don't
sure
they
that the
just-
bombs
doesn't give
that
you
run
any
in this time
indication,
bombs
and they
have
figured
lists.
it
you know
out
what?
eventually.
It
Lists for
doesn't give you any
different weights
indication that there's a
in their
general
bombs, and
attraction
then,
between all masses, which is
how
what the
long,
theory claims.
what to set the fuse
Don't
on
you think, Num,
when you
that
want it to
after
explode at a certain
30, 40,
distance?
50, 60 times
pretty
of
sure they had the
dropping
lists.
something out of a plane and seeing where it landed and what time, that they were like researching and writing down all their values, and
Yeah.
they just ended
Hi,
up with
Philip.
the
How you
same
doing?
thing every time.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
I'm not.
Can you hear me?
I don't dispute
No,
any of that.
okay,
That's not you. You are missing the point of this argument, sir.
Hi.
Which is what I'm saying is that what's not understood is the underlying mechanical cause of things' tendency to fall in the downward
No, but
direction.
you have not mentioned that once. You have not
I've been
actually said that
mentioning that
once.
the entire
Because-
time.
No,
I've not
because
mentioned that once. That's what I
if
came
you
in with.
had-
I said that's why
if
we
you
can't
had have
use
said
the word
that
gravity.
once, then I would have agreed with you, because that is
No,
the
I've
biggest
said it like
conundrum
probably
of
I probably
science
said
right
it
now.
15 times. Go back and listen again to this later and see how
No,
silly.
I'm not going to listen to it again.
Of
The
course you
biggest
won't.
conundrum of science is why gravity happens.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a conundrum. So if it's a conundrum, it's not proven science, it's not fact, it's just a theory, as Numi keeps saying over and over again. But you guys say you want to go back to ancient times and just assert it based on stuff falling to the ground. It's complete and utter nonsense.
Well, things
Hadron
fall to the
Collider is a
ground, right?
particle, is testing the standard model of particle theory. General relativity, which is Einstein's sort of grand cosmic theory, purports to explain the mechanism behind gravity, which is the distortion of the fabric of space-time. So
It
you're right
displaces
about-
it.
Yeah, interesting. But
So they do claim that they have
Try to prove
they
it.
do claim to have an explanation of the cause, but
Maybe Riley's right.
and I deny that explanation of cause. I think it's
What am I
false.
wrong
I
about?
think all the attempts to
I
prove
agree with you that
gravity,
nobody
what
knows,
is supposed
but
to
I'm just
cause
saying that they
gravity,
claim that they
are
know.
all falsified.
No,
I think they're
nobody
all
knows. That's why we're
nonsense.
doing all the experiments. Nobody knows why mass attracts mass.
You don't know anything.
No,
about
no one
I don't
knows.
know why no.
What he's saying-
Large Hadron Collider
They don't know
is a
that it does.
completely
It doesn't.
separate- Arwen, can you just stop talking for a second? Listen, Large Hadron Collider is a completely separate test model. It has to do with the standard theory of particles. It has nothing to do with gravity or general
No,
relativity.
it's got
General
everything
relativity-
to do with gravity,
Nope.
because they're trying
No,
to smash
they can't reach
particles
the energy
apart.
scales. They can't
They're
reach the
trying to
energy
smash
scales to.
particles
Let's
apart
listen to what the
so
PhD
much that they can
student
figure out
says.
which part of the particle is actually the gravitational part of the particle.
No, you're
That's
just
why they're
about the
smashing them
you're
apart.
just putting your ignorance on display, which is nice. But I'm just saying they do claim to have an explanation for gravity and its general relativity.
Okay, go. Tell me, what do they claim is the explanation for gravity?
That the distortion of the fabric of space-time in the presence of mass.
That's general relativity.
Yeah,
That is
true,
general
right?
relativity.
Yes.
Yeah, and am I right about the Hadron Collider not being a test of gravity or general relativity, and it being about the standard particles?
It depends. If you talk about if you're talking about the Higgs particle, then yes, that's the physics that the Large Hadron Collider was trying to probe, and they found. So
I didn't think they found it yet.
But indirectly, they can't directly probe gravitation with the Large Hadron Collider.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not the purpose. Like, they already claim to have the underlying causal mechanism of gravity figured out.
So we have about 1 hour left on this live stream. I hope you're all enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below this video once it's rendered. However, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Massive thanks to all of you who have done so already. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there is approximately 1 hour left on this live stream.
Back here? This is ridiculous. I said, if you wanted to make all those variables, work out together nicely to get a consistent, predictable effect.
What variables?
Hey, Peanuts, how you doing?
Flying in the plane, the fuse, the weight of the payload, the aerodynamics of the airframe.
Right there. The weight of the payload.
Can you hear me?
You don't understand.
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Because you said the weight of the payload. You don't understand what
I think there's a weight of a payload. I'm not
because
disputing
you think an apple and a volleyball are going to fall at different rates.
No, I don't think that's what he's saying at all.
What is weight?
You are a liar. You're a lying sack of shit. Sorry.
That's what you think, because you think the weight has something to do with it.
Oh, is that what I think?
You just said that.
No, I didn't.
What did you say? When you were talking about the variables and you said, oh, the plane, the this or that, the weight.
I said the weight of the payload.
Yeah, that's what I just said. That's got nothing to do with it.
No, all those things are going to have something to do with it because you have to bring it up in the air in an airplane, and the airplane has to be able to lift it. I
hear a man backtracking, backpedaling. No,
I'm not backpedaling. I'm saying that the weight of the bomb is going to be one of the many, many, many variables that are going to go into trying to figure out how to get a consistent effect from dropping it out of a plane.
There is terminal velocity, right?
So is there weight? Does weight make things fall numbly?
No.
It does not. No, it doesn't.
Wait, what do you mean?
The effect of things accelerating in the downward direction.
So you
accelerating?
Yeah.
So Nummy-Num, so you believe that the gravitational
pull
is like an acceleration force. It is not towards the surface of the Earth.
There's Phil and Arwin both talking, so we can't hear either.
Go ahead, Arwin.
Can't hear Arwin. In here.
Well, gravity is like an accelerating force, but it is not. It is just like it. It seems to behave same kind of way as acceleration does, but it's not. You can't prove that it is. And I'd like to emphasize once again that there is no proof as to what causes the gravity constant.
Okay.
And people love to claim that they do. They've been trying to for a long time, and then gravitational pull was invented, was latched onto gravity, and now gravity means gravitational pull. It's an abomination.
There's no evidence that it's pull either. It could
what causes things to fall down?
We don't know.
Philip was trying to say something.
Displacement.
So
is
I'm
Philip.
saying,
Yeah, do you
I'm
want to go ahead,
saying
Philip? Sorry.
Displacement, apparently.
Displacement is things falling down, Anthony.
Yeah, I think
Sorry,
not
can
displacement
just
is
give
a
way to
cause
Philip
of
just
the
for a minute.
pull
He's not got a word
downward.
in edgewise yet.
No, displacement is the cause and the effect. It's both.
It can't be both.
No, you can't
No,
have
it's not.
That's come on, really.
So what you're saying is an object of mass won't displace that which is below it if it's denser
Yeah,
than
but
it.
that's the same thing as it falling on
If
Earth.
there's no force acting on that object or the gas
Yes,
around
there
it,
is. Yes, there
it's
is.
not going
It's
to move.
called
No, there's
gravity.
no force on it. That's right.
And
There
if
is
you
no force
counter
acting
that
on it.
force, then
No,
the
you have to have
materials
a force to move.
behave
No,
differently.
you
There's a
don't.
force acting
No, you
on
don't
it.
have to have a force to move. That's the point.
Gravity is not a
Yes, you
force
do.
according to the theory
you
of
don't.
general relativity.
It looks like a force.
It's
Well,
the
it looks, but
It
it's
behaves
explicitly
like
not a force.
It's
An
a
acceleration like
fictitious
force.
Yes, I agree.
It's
But
the absence of resistance that allows it to move.
It's not a
if you
fictitious
take-
force either.
it
So-
acts like a fictitious force in the sense
It acts
that
like a fictitious
it's
force, but
independent of mass.
It
And
acts like a fictitious force. That's the most you can say about it.
it acts like a fictitious force in every sense, meaning if I can measure the gravitational blue and redshift if I move perpendicular in the direction of the acceleration, which would not be the same as a mechanical fictitious force. That's only when you're in an accelerating reference frame do you get
Right,
red
but-
and blue shift.
But
And
there's
so
no.
in every metric, it looks like an accelerating reference frame.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
That's why I call it the acceleration in the downward direction. But there's no evidence that it operates in any other direction. So that's why this concept gravity is at this
Okay,
point
so you're saying
serious.
the curvature of space-time has not been proven, but you do agree that it looks like an accelerating reference frame perpendicular to the surface of the Earth.
Yes.
Okay.
And no, and I also don't think that it acts. I don't think there's evidence that it's attracting in other directions other than downward on Earth.
Fair enough.
Shouldn't this be a pull to the center? I mean,
What? No, that's what
From-
I don't think it does refer to a pull to any center because there's no center, right?
But-
There's no
but
evidence
doesn't-
of center.
doesn't
You would
that-
There's
agree
no
that
proof of a center.
you would agree,
And there's
you
no
would
proof
agree
of
that
gravitational
if,
pull.
according. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Arwen.
Go, Arwen.
There's no proof of a center and there's no proof of gravitational pull. There's just proof of the effect constant of gravity, which is an essential part of density and buoyancy to work the way it does, can be countered through falling
What is-
planes.
what does
Materials
density
within
have
that
to do
plane
with
will
gravity?
respond differently. Materials will respond differently in a heavy centrifugal setup. Gravity is there. It is like a force. It seems to act like acceleration, and there is no proof as to what causes it. Still not. There's been
I don't know
false
why you
created
why
proof.
100%, Arwen. Well done. Like, so do you actually believe that gravity makes stuff fall to the ground at 9.8 meters per second per second?
Yes, that's what he's saying.
No,
In a
that's just the
general,
way-
Yeah, that's what he just said.
atmospheric conditions.
He's not
and all
calling
that,
it
yes.
gravity, but it's the same effect.
No, he calls it gravity.
Hey.
And Arwen, why do you call it gravity? Gravity refers to the general attraction between masses.
No,
The theoretical attraction.
I denounce
That's-
that.
I
That's
I
denounce
denounce
just a
that. I
word. Can we just
completely
get over
disagree.
this, please?
Well,
No, it's an
We
important
know what we're
word.
talking about.
Yeah, it's
No,
an important
it's
word.
an important word.
In the
Because
context
it refers
of,
to a theory. It's a theoretic. It's a word that refers to a specific theory.
right.
It's not
Do you
just
know
a word.
you're using
No, I
theory in the
denounce
wrong
that.
context
I
here,
say that
okay?
no, that's
No,
called
I'm
gravitational
not.
pull.
Correct.
It's
And
a-
if you simplify
No,
it
I'm
and
not.
call that
Theory
gravity,
is a
then you
hypothesis which has been
overwrite
tested
the
and
ancient concept of gravity,
So by you should call
which
it a
is a
hypothesis,
constant
not a
and is
theory.
unproven
Oh,
as to
boy.
what
Can you
causes
guys
it.
hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, we
Why
hear
is
you.
it that Neil deGrasse Tyson cannot explain gravity?
What do you
He
mean
can't.
you can explain?
Would
What-
you look? I can share my screen and I can show you a
Probably
video
because he's a
of
poet.
Neil deGrasse Tyson saying he has no freaking clue what the hell gravity is. Would
No,
you
what he
like
was
to watch
referring
that?
to is he doesn't know what
That
is
would
the
be
causal
correct.
mechanism for the curvature of space-time.
No,
yeah, that's what he's talking
gravity.
about.
That's
That's what
exactly what
gravity-
he's talking
He's
about.
using the
Gravity
word
is.
gravity. Would you
That's
like
what
to
gravity
watch?
We've all just said that. I'm sorry, whoever you are, newcomer. We've all just said that no one knows how gravity works. But Arwen has just admitted with the rest of us that it is a thing, and it makes things fall at 9.8 meters per second per second.
Yeah, he did.
We're all good. We're all good.
Displacement
We've all on the panel have got an understanding of gravity now, except for Nummy Num.
No, Nummy Num is just objecting to the fact that we're using the terminology referring to the law of universal gravitation, which is the attraction between masses. And he says that the only thing that we have observed is the fact that things fall to the ground, which does not necessarily imply the universal law of gravitation.
Yes, thank you. That's what I mean.
I agree to that,
really
but
well
I
put,
don't
Randall.
object to calling it gravity. We should just distinguish the concept of gravitational pull, which is a theory that is unproven,
Why
and
call
the
it gravity?
original
Don't call it
concept
Why
of
not
gravity.
call it Brian? Why not call it something else? Why call it something that has already got a meaning and it's a theory? Why bother calling it that?
Because it's
You
already
guys call it whatever you
ingrained in
like.
the
I know what you're
culture.
talking about.
You guys
Falling
realize that if we
force,
were
downward
underwater,
force.
we would be
Yeah,
discussing
you could
why
call
do
it that,
things
but
rise.
why not just call it
I
gravity?
actually think fall
Well,
under
I'll tell
water.
you why. The problem with just calling
Gravity,
it gravity
heaviness,
is because
the grave.
the problem
already
is
in the
that it is something, and when asserting those things, astrophysicists like Neil deGrasse Tyson drop a microphone and demonstrate exactly what you are detailing, and then say the word gravity.
Yeah, that's what gravity is.
No, but it's as if that dropping of that microphone somehow lends
It
weight,
does.
lends weight, no
Yeah.
pun intended, to
Lends
the idea
weight to
that
the
there's a
gravitational
generalized
pull
attraction
concept,
between
and
all
that is
masses
just
and
it
universe.
is
Yeah,
wrong.
Arwin,
It's a
They're
false
the same thing.
hold
That they're
on.
consistent,
This
right?
is the main point, and Arwin and Nummy are saying the exact same thing over each other. So the only people who don't get this point, and it's the most important bit, are the audience. So can it just have Nummy or Arwin, one or the other, just say exactly that thing again?
All right. Nami, you go first.
Okay, I was going to say that the problem with Neil deGrasse Tyson dropping the microphone and saying that's gravity is that it conflates this idea of the observations of cosmic so-called cosmic attraction or this universal gravitation with just this tendency of things to fall in the downward direction on Earth.
Precisely. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Yeah, well,
I would say, I agree to that, but I personally have no problem to calling that constant, that effect, just calling that gravity. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I have a
That's what
problem
people have
to
done.
then automatically assume that gravity is caused by gravitational pull. That is
Well, I think that all that's
the
going to
real
do
problem
is
that I
add
have.
confusion to this conversation. And so, like, I think we need to be more specific and not less specific with the term gravity in a conversation
Yeah,
about
but I agree to
physics
that.
on the
That's
shape
why I
of the Earth.
constantly emphasize, call it gravity, and then say it's not gravitational pull. Been doing that for over
No.
half a year now.
So when things fall down, there's no pull. Is that what you're saying, Arwen?
Yes.
There's no pull in general relativity either.
Well,
There's no
no,
pull,
but
no push.
in the
There
sense
is
that
just
he's-
a
yeah, I know, but-
downward motion.
No, you don't know that. Come on. You didn't think that they figured out that they claim to have the mechanism figured out at all. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not up to date on your general relativity and your contemporary scientific models. You think it's still. You still
I don't
think it's
know.
pull.
I pretty much doubt that they have really figured it out because they're not letting go of this gravitational pull concept. So in their theories, and that just
It's an
points to me
attraction.
that it's all
It's an
it's all
attraction
wrong.
between masses. That we're,
Yeah, it feels
Yeah,
like
and that
a
is
pull.
wrong.
I mean, when you hold something
No, it
up,
could be
when you hold something heavy up, it feels like a pull.
No, it
That's
could be
all.
just as
That's the
easily
only.
as a push.
Yeah,
And
I
it-
know. I
But you don't know.
understand that.
You
I was
don't know.
just
You don't know
using-
what you're talking about. You're pretender clown.
No, I know what we're talking about. So
No, you
I
don't.
was
You've
just
made so
using it
many
in the
mistakes
sense
here
that you were
already.
talking-
You thought that they were using the
No, I
word
haven't.
gravity since the ancient times, and they
Yeah,
weren't.
they have. Yeah,
No, they
have.
haven't. I looked it
Yes.
up. You're wrong. No, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. You haven't done your homework.
No.
Go do your homework.
They're using gravity. They just didn't call it gravity.
What's your one
Roman
first
engineers knew
universal
about gravity? Ancient Roman Roman engineers knew about gravity.
No, they didn't use the term, and they didn't have that
Well,
theory.
no, they didn't
I
speak
agree
English.
to that.
Of course
I
not.
agree to that.
No,
They didn't use the
it's a
word
Latin
gravity.
word, silly.
They
But they
didn't
did
speak
use the
Latin.
concept.
The Romans didn't speak
Well,
Latin.
they spoke Greek.
No, the Romans spoke Latin. The Greeks spoke Greek. Go do
We
your
covered
homework.
this earlier, that people have been using the fact that things fell to the ground. We've been using that in all of our science and technology for thousands of years.
Yeah, big
right?
deal.
We all agree on that, right?
Yeah, big deal.
Yes.
I think
Who
we all
What do you
can
mean
agree
big
on
deal?
that.
Because
Yeah, of
we
course. Why would
all
anyone
agree,
ever
though, right?
disagree on that? Because that would be retarded. That's not
Well,
even.
some people don't understand the
But
concept
we
of
all
Newton's laws of
agree
motion.
enough that
That's
we
not a point
all
that needs
agree that it falls at 9.8 meters per second, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's not what
Oh my
gravity
God,
is.
thank you. So you just agreed. Gravity, whatever I'm calling, you can call
This
it
is just
falling
trolling.
down.
Yeah,
But it
that's. I
happens
think
at
this is more
9.8
a
meters per
semantical
second.
discussion in that sense.
Yeah,
The
I think
allergy
this
of
is
the word
semantical.
gravity because of the theory
No.
of gravitational pull.
Gravity is refers to the theoretical attraction between all masses, not just things falling at a certain rate.
Well, what causes it?
No, I
Density?
think that was changed. I think that was
I'm-
grafted
No,
on
that
to
was-
the original
okay.
concept
Cause
of
is
gravity.
unknown.
Is it related to density?
So what do you want to call
Yes.
it, nummy num? What's your word for it?
I think that we should just call it by what we can tangibly observe, which is the tendency of things to accelerate in the downward direction.
Is it related to
Okay.
density?
We could come up with
That's
we might
not
want to
very
come up
good
with a new
word for
term,
it.
but this gravity term is loaded with a bunch of prior.
Let's just call it
Motion.
downward acceleration.
Well, let's
Yeah.
unload it then. Let's unload
Yeah, let's call it
it.
DA,
Let's not
downward
erase
acceleration.
it.
We'll
It's
call
a
it
good
DA.
word.
For
Why
the
not?
purpose of our conversation, since it's very upsetting to people.
It's not upsetting. It's just inaccurate.
Okay.
Like so what? And I don't. And I have I take issue with this concept
So,
of
okay,
gravity,
so
considering
can we
there's no
move on to the-
scientific evidence to support it. Like,
Right. So can we move on to the next
But when
one?
you say scientific evidence, let's just talk about DA. So in terms of the bomb dropping 100 meters above the city, do you still purport that it's going to take trial and error to actually get the bomb to drop and explode 100 meters above the city? Or do you think that there is... Really? So you
Well,
can't
what about the part
calculate
getting
that?
it explode to what about the part of getting it to explode a specific height above the ground? You don't think that's going to require some testing?
No,
No.
that's just timing. This is what this is what I joined for, is to say.
No, but you're just talking.
that
So
people
you
have been-
just have this idea of
people have
this
been
like ideal world
people have
where
been fighting
you just
wars on this
manufacture.
planet for so long, and the people with the best technology have been invariably winning wars. And the idea is that at some point, people needed to know. They needed to figure out. You get one shot. If you're in a bomber flying over a city,
Yeah,
and you got
dude,
one
you're really
shot
dumb.
to drop a bomb.
Yeah, they're completely conflating science with technological advancement and munitions testing. The two aren't the same thing, Josh.
You would use the scientific method of observe, hypothesize, and do experiments, right?
In controlled environments with independent and dependent variables.
Yes.
Yeah, you're talking
Oh,
like the
really?
only variable would be DA when there would be.
Well,
Or you can change the height.
The
You can
variable-
change how high the object falls from. Right.
Density.
Yeah, but there's also wind resist. There's an air
Oh, yeah.
resistance, wind,
You
speed of
can't-
the plane that it's moving. How to get the timing device for it to
Right.
be accurate
You
every
know,
time.
you know,
Like,
right.
you're talking about you're trying to talk about this technology in some kind of idealized world where nothing needs testing. All we do is just we know the acceleration of downward, so nothing. Wow, what else do we need to know? No, that's
Well,
ridiculous.
you test it.
No. But that's when you get one
No,
shot.
you're
You
a
do. Do you know what terminal
moron.
velocity is?
You're a complete idiot. You have no idea
Do you
how.
know do you know what terminal velocity is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all know what terminal velocity is. So
Nummy
what?
num.
You
Yes,
test
I know what
it.
terminal velocity is, and there's nothing to do with what you're saying.
But do you think a bomb like a cylindrical shaped bomb dropped from 10,000 feet achieves terminal velocity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I don't know off the top of my head.
No,
Well,
it would have
Yes,
me
it
neither.
does because because most terminal velocity is about 150 miles an hour, approximately.
But if
Well,
it's
no.
aerodynamic enough, it might have a faster one.
Is terminal
no,
is terminal
no,
velocity not
basically,
just
the
dependent
way it
on
works
whatever?
out, you
I
drop.
thought.
What
Sorry,
does
just
this
to get this-
matter? It's just ridiculous. What are we
Either
going to
way,
say?
just so I understand,
Velocity
Numi, I'm
depend on
sorry,
the
just for my own
profile of the
clarity,
object.
I thought terminal velocity was just any given object's maximum speed given the air resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and-
exactly what it is.
which
It's
is
the highest potential speed
Yeah,
it could
but
fall.
Nathan, but if the given object has zero air resistance, then what is it?
Or close to zero.
Or close to zero.
No,
We're
terminal
talking about a
velocity.
bomb.
that would be a number, the closest number to 150 miles an hour, because that's the fastest an object can drop in
That's
our
not
atmosphere.
true.
No, if there's
That's
no
just not
wind
true.
resistance, it can go as fast as it wants.
No,
It will
did
keep
say in our
accelerating
atmosphere.
until it stops.
no. Terminal velocity is like an ideal number, and then you take you
Well,
subtract
whatever it
What,
is,
from
what do you
that.
mean an ideal number? Nummy, you don't know what you're talking about.
gentlemen,
Yeah, I do.
it's a wonderful theory
Okay, I'll
because
look it up.
nobody's been able to build anything to go past 150 miles an hour.
I'd like
Yeah,
to see the
fighter
citation.
jets.
I'm just curious. I
Yeah,
don't.
with a
I'm not
rock, with a
challenging. I
jet,
just-
that's a jet engine behind them. That's pushing.
Cars in a racetrack go faster than 150.
That's something actually pushing. We're saying you drop it and it falls on its own inertia, building up its own inertia, yada, yada, yada. And the fastest it'll go. Naturally, you put a rocket engine behind it, you'll get something going
rockets
Mach
don't
5,
work.
right?
Hey, so random guy just there. I just Googled it in a second. I'm sure we all know that the peregrine falcon is the fastest animal, right? We all know that. And the terminal velocity increases to about 200 miles an hour for a peregrine falcon. That's
He's
pretty awesome.
pushing.
And that's faster than
No.
150.
No,
No,
it's
it's not pushing. It's a dive.
They drop.
Who
Are you
cares? Why are we
All right.
arguing about this?
I
is
was told by a
retarded.
physics guy a few weeks ago that nothing goes past a buck 50.
Well,
so
he was wrong.
He was
apparently,
wrong.
Nothing.
Apparently.
I don't know if he said nothing. He just said most things on average, which is a very different statement.
Maybe that's it, and I misunderstood it.
Yeah.
Maybe
An
that
average
was
is
it.
different from a single case, right? Like there could be some faster cases, there could be some slower cases.
Maybe
So just
that.
terminal velocity doesn't prove gravity. Sorry.
That's
Right.
what I
don't know why
that's
we're talking
also
about
what I was
terminal.
I don't know why we're
No,
talking about
no.
it either. It's because this
Okay,
Josh
I
fellow
brought
likes
up
to
terminal
bring up
velocity
throw
because he
random.
can't understand that the weight of the bomb or the shape of the bomb has nothing to do with just how fast it falls.
That's
You
not what
couldn't
I ever
understand
said.
that. You
That's
couldn't
not what I
understand
ever-
that.
No,
Like,
you're a
you were trying
liar.
to say that there was the weight of the bomb and then the air pressure and the resistance
there
and all
is.
this sort of stuff.
That's.
I
those
would
are
say
all-
that the weight of the bomb has a lot to do with how fast it will fall.
Why are you guys so messed up on this?
Because you're going to have a surface
Because they have
area.
an
You're
ideology.
going to have a
It will
relationship between the surface area and the weight. Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
It'll
when
excel-
air resistance comes into play, then the acceleration of gravity is not the only force acting on the object.
Yeah, you dumb fuck. You're just too dumb. You're really too dumb.
No swearing. Come on, don't swear.
Okay, sorry.
Is that capable offense, Nathan?
Yes, it is.
No, I don't want to. I don't
I'm
want you
getting
to
a
kick
warning.
it. It's fun.
No. You really haven't done your homework. You haven't prepared
Hang
for.
on. I'm talking to the guy that thinks that people drop bombs on cities with trial and error. That's the guy that I'm talking to right now.
No.
You think
Wait,
that there
wait,
wasn't
wait.
a team
As far as
of
bombs on
100
cities, you're
scientists
talking to
trying to
someone
figure
who-
out the best
wait.
way to deliver a bomb?
So you don't think that that there's no research and development in bombs? That they never do that. They just come up with a schematic straight to the factory, just start dropping the bombs, no tests at all, never
They
necessary.
They might actually put things into like a wind tunnel and check the air resistance.
No,
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
what I'm
field in
saying.
Iowa. There's a field in Iowa they used during World War II.
For
Yeah.
testing?
Yeah,
They're
for
gonna have
testing
live
bombs.
tests, of course. There's all sorts of things that can go wrong. You have to work out all kinds of little kinks, things that you wouldn't expect. And also, their weight does is a variable in the equation because there's surface area to mass ratio.
Weight has no effect of the air in the
Yeah, it
equation.
does because there's a
No, it
ratio.
has
between
no
surface
bearing
area
at
and
all.
mass.
I can prove it.
Oh, it should. No. Okay. Wait.
how fast it will reach terminal velocity is going to be affected by the surface area to
Yeah.
weight.
No, it
Yeah,
has nothing to do with weight.
Yeah, it does.
It has to do with its mass.
It's mass. Okay, surface area to mass.
Mass and weight are two different things.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I misspoke. I think initially I did say surface area to mass, but I'm just saying that, yeah, the mass
Well, since
of
there's
the bomb,
only
which
like
is
a
going to be
constant-
measurable as weight when you're building it, is going to
Right,
be a factor.
Since weight and mass are basically proportional to each other.
Yeah. So Josh, you lose again, sir.
I'm sorry, how did I lose it? Like, you have said nothing smart this entire conversation.
Because you said it's ridiculous that I brought up that the weight of the bomb would have any effect on developing on how you might want to drop it to explode at a given height, which it would. So you're wrong.
You are literally talking about negligible moments. They make bombs, right? Have you seen a bomb?
No, it's not
Right, you've seen
negligible
one,
at
right?
all. It's one of the variables that you would have to consider.
It's a cylinder. It's the same shape as a bullet. Why do you think they make them the same shape?
Well,
sorry, just to bring this back on track. Sorry, because we've gone round and round and round on this. But do you accept, Josh, that this in no way proves gravity?
It just Why is aerodynamics?
We've already proved
I'm trying to say
done.
that
we haven't
many
proved gravity.
fields.
Yeah, we did.
Particularly in the water
And
field, it has been necessary to understand how it works.
Wait, gentlemen, the only reason they make bombs in the shape they do is because you cannot aim a brick. Okay, it's strictly for aiming purposes. It has
Yeah, but
nothing.
why? Why?
Because it's easier to aim a bullet
Why is
shaped
it easier?
object than a brick.
Why?
Why?
Because a bullet flies straighter. That's all. A bullet
Why?
will
It's flying through
fly
atmosphere.
Fly straighter.
Much less
Exactly.
resistance
straight through
from
the atmosphere.
atmosphere.
A brick,
They just
a
fall
brick?
in the position. They fall in the configuration that you drop them anyway.
No, they don't, because if the object I made was really wide and shallow, like, if I dropped a piece of paper from 35,000 feet, it will land in a million different locations. Based on
What are you dropping paper bombs on people for?
No, but but what I'm saying to you is, if you drop something that you have very little control over, from 10,000 feet, and you drop it a million times, it will never land in the exact same spot. So that's why they pick the bullet-shaped object, so that it'll hit relatively close to the spot you were shooting at.
I'm seeing this first trial and error bomber where they had like these paper airplane bombs they were throwing at the back of and just couldn't figure out why they weren't landing.
Are you really serious that you don't think that there's any trial and error used in the development of bombs? Really? Like, that's honestly your position. They never do that.
The whole trial and error.
It's so silly. That's so unbelievably stupid. I can't believe anyone would do that.
A bomb does not prove gravity.
How many times, Nubby Num, did they drop the bomb on Hiroshima? How many times did that happen?
None, actually. Because
okay, all right, that's a whole new thing.
No, Hiroshima was carpet bomb.
No, but I said that this idea that they never trial and errored any bomb. That's what you're saying. They never do that. They never trial and error any of the technology. They just know it's going to work because gravity. That's
not what he's saying.
Silly position. Yeah, it is.
That's not what he's saying.
He is. He entered and said that he started saying, "Well, you guys are talking about gravity, and basically bombs get dropped. And if we didn't know all about gravity, then they would never be able to drop bombs."
That's true.
Yeah.
That's total nonsense. The two are total non sequitur. It's not related.
And then you got on to why bombs are shaped cylindrical objects. Like, why is a bomb a cylindrical object?
We know things will fall. That's all we
I
know.
specifically said
We know about
we know 100 is above the target. That's what I specifically said. A bomb would drop and it had to explode 100 meters above the target. So now we're actually talking about the fuse time on the bomb, right? The time it leaves your ship and the time that it explodes.
We're not listening to any more of your infantile silliness.
Yeah.
We're saying that this has nothing to do with none of this demonstrates the general attraction between mass and error.
That has everything to do with gravity.
No, he
No,
said
it
it's got
doesn't.
nothing to do with the attraction between masses. So we're back to, this is the problem with calling it gravity. It gets conflated, it gets twisted, and it gets used, although it's contextualized sometimes, mostly not, as the same thing, and it absolutely is not.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
even Philip understands that it's not, and he has a PhD, so you're supposed to agree with everything he said.
100% it is. Hey, Philip, you just got called out. So are we talking nonsense? If we have a bomb that we needed to drop out of a plane,
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
Josh, I'm sorry to
we
tell
drop-
you this, but you're a moron.
If we drop a bomb out of a plane, we need to know gravity to be able to figure out when it gets to 100 feet. That's so much BS. I drop a bomb out of a plane. I just sit there with a clock, with a stopwatch,
But the plane is moving. But the plane is moving.
Oh, another
If you drop
variable.
it-
Wow.
if you drop
This is
it-
scientific.
When do you drop it?
If you drop it from the same height towards the earth, it will take just as long to get to 100 meters or 100 feet or whatever.
No,
height
because it
you
will have
wanna
some of
get
the
to.
horizontal velocity of the plane, and there's so many variables. It's
Gentlemen,
really.
It'll be roughly the same.
Gentlemen, in the old
Fine.
days, all they had was a timer, not a fuse in a bomb. That's all it was a timer.
There's a fuse on
what the fuse is.
atomic
No,
bombs.
it was
No,
a timer.
stop it.
There was
Stop
no
it. This has
fuses.
nothing to do with proving gravity.
Fuses stopped in
agree.
the Civil War, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Okay, well, I think that's what he meant by fuse. He meant a timer that denotes how long it's going to
Yeah,
take to
but
explode.
No,
it,
it's not
it
talking
still
about the
doesn't change the point. I agree.
The
But
timer
all they
is
had was-
actually called a fuse.
No, let's
Okay,
just get
but
off Josh the moron's.
When you
idiot idea
call,
here.
We don't
I
need
know
to-
nowadays
names.
now you know why I think the timer is called the fuse is because nowadays when you get a record contract, you make a DVD.
Wait, what?
Okay, so yeah, just to bring that to a
Tangent.
close, yeah, though it is fascinating to listen to the details of munitions testing and all the many variables that go into something falling from the sky, it in absolutely no way has anything to do with gravity, certainly doesn't prove it, and I think we can move on.
Well, we got Arwen disagrees with you.
No,
Yeah,
it
we're aware of
doesn't.
that.
Don't try and
It's
conflate
only
Arwen's
on the name
statements
of
into
what
something
you
they're
call
not.
Yeah, it's
No,
called
Arwen admitted that things fall to the earth at 9.8 meters per second,
We
and
all
that is a
admitted that.
massive
We
win.
all-
In
we
the
all-
hours and hours that I've heard this show go on before, that is a big win.
No, we've
Listen, I
all
would say
acknowledged that the
that
whole
an
time.
object reaches terminal velocity at a speed of 9.8 meters per second squared.
That's
Just
just irrelevant.
That's just nonsense. That's just why would you say that?
Because eventually it stops accelerating.
None of this has to do with gravity, though.
Right.
Exactly.
We're dropping a bomb out of a plane.
No,
it
it
has
hasn't anything to do with
everything
gravitational
gravity.
pull.
Crazy.
subject.
No,
It's
it
got a
doesn't,
lot
Josh.
to do with the fact that we know
Absolutely nothing
things
to do with
fall
gravity.
down above
Things
water.
fall down
Things-
is an observation.
no, things fall down.
It does not
Mostly
prove that
fall
there's
down. Things mostly fall down underwater. Or sorry, above water. Things mostly go
sorry.
up.
It's got nothing to do with
Things
gravity.
fall
It's got
down
all to do with
underwater,
CO2.
Exactly.
Things fall down underwater too.
Yes, but some of the things that fall down up here actually rise underwater.
Some things
Like-
rise
Right.
up out of the water.
Like exactly. Like
Some things in the air don't fall down; they go up. Some things underwater go down,
that's
and
why I
some things
said
go up.
most
Well, that's
of this
about, that has to do with
stuff
buoyancy.
on
Yeah, I mean, so I think
Ladies
we
and
pointed
gentlemen,
that-
Density
I said
still
most of this-
require
Hey, the rumpus.
gravity, not gravitational pull, to function,
Great.
and that
Hello.
can be
and
proven.
most of the stuff
Hold on a
below the
second.
water
Oh, we have a full
rise.
panel today.
Did you say later on your
No.
guest? Hi, Rumpus.
I would
Hello.
say
Hello.
everything below the water falls because it's below the water. Otherwise,
Okay,
it
no.
wouldn't be.
What's
It would
the
be
Let's put
evidence?
this- Let's put it this way.
It
if-
would be
if
on the
me
top
and-
of the water if it rose.
What's the evidence of gravity? That there's a
Let's
general.
let's look at a chunk of wood, ladies and gentlemen. Look at a chunk of wood. You take a big tree that you could not lift by yourself above the water. But if you take that chunk of wood and you drop it under the water, nobody'd be able to keep it pinned to the ground underwater. Okay.
So
The water's
That's because it's less dense.
what does that show?
Exactly.
What does that show?
It shows
Yeah, but
that
hey,
we
but
do
gravity
not know
still
what
applies. If you
gravity
take a
is.
chunk of wood inside
How does it
a
not show?
aquarium,
No, no.
can I please finish my
We
point
know.
for a moment? If you take a chunk of wood and put it inside of a aquarium with water, and you then take that aquarium into a plane, and you go dive down, then that chunk of wood would just move around in that water. It would not go to the surface.
Wow, that's an interesting thought.
falling at the same speed.
Somebody
actually
They're accelerating. They have to accelerate downward at 9.8 meters per second per second.
Hey, Armin,
Well,
yeah,
That's the whole point. Gravity is still there. It's just not caused by gravitational pull.
Yes,
It's
it
a
is.
constant.
So Arwen,
Gravity is there, but it's not caused by gravitational pull. Good comment.
Exactly.
That's a silly statement, Arwen, because
No,
that's
it's
what
not.
gravity
No, it's
refers
not.
to is the attraction between masses.
No.
Not pull, but the attraction.
That's gravitational pull. That's what it was made into. That's what they call it.
So
I
Arwen, a
disagree
piece
with
of
that.
wood floats on water, right?
Only in a normal stationary environment when gravity is applied in full.
And stone will float on a pool of mercury, won't it?
Do ducks also
not too
float
sure.
in water?
Yes.
So
Yes, it
logically,
will.
she's a
Yeah,
duck.
it will. And a piece of gold, however, will fall through a pool of mercury.
It'll actually dissolve.
Yes. No, it will
I don't know
fall
if
and
that's
then
true.
dissolve.
It'll fall because
fall and then dissolve.
And then it will dissolve.
So it
Yes.
isn't weight. So it isn't weight that keeps things up, makes them float.
It's
It is the difference in density.
density or
No, it's not
buoyancy.
density because it's not. It can't be.
Yes, it is.
Is it buoyant?
You don't even know what density is, do you, Arwen?
Uses
No, he doesn't.
gravity.
He doesn't know.
as
Tell us what
part
density
of
is, Arwen. Tell us
its
what density
workings.
is.
And when you counter gravity,
Tell us
by
what density is.
the
please.
experiments that I proposed, then the density and buoyancy effects will no longer apply. Things will just
tell us
float
what density
freely despite their density.
Tell us what density.
Rumpus, I actually think that today we actually we came to the conclusion that there is an acceleration downward, which I think is a very good agreement.
Really?
So Arwen agreed to this, and so did Numidum.
Yeah.
What does that
They
downward
just stubbornly
acceleration-
call that gravity, and I guess that's
What does a downward
objectable, but
acceleration
I do.
prove?
It's the DA.
Okay, it doesn't. So I'm not saying that it proves anything at this point, just based on the observations made by this panel, right?
No,
but I'm just saying.
Nobody would have questioned you 100 years ago that when you drop things, they fall down.
Yeah,
right, it's caused by an acceleration.
It's the moment you start saying why that piece of that
We don't
thing
need to
is
worry about that.
falling.
We don't need to
that
worry
The
we
about
same
have-
thing
that everybody
applies, by the
starts
way.
having problems
Density
with.
buoyancy
No, we do need
also
to worry about
apply
that.
in
No, we
other
don't.
directions
No, we don't.
if you put stuff
Right. So the
in
next
a
step to
centrifuge.
let's just talk about the next step
Then the
to
same
prove
thing will happen,
gravitational
but
attraction.
in other directions
Right,
because
let's just move
the
on.
centrifuge
We
force
understand
is
that there is an
stronger.
acceleration towards the Earth. Now we have to say, okay, is there a more general attraction between massive objects? Since the Earth is apparently made out of mass, right? There is mass below our feet, and since we're being pulled towards that mass, we might be able to go ahead and hypothesize that mass attracts mass.
We've got about half an hour left on this live stream. Hope you're all enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly though, if you'd like to join the discussion, there is still one gap left on the panel. Simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video, and you can join the discussion to express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Massive thanks to all who have done so already. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There's a little under 30 minutes left on this live stream.
No hypothesis.
Well, the full explanation would include causation.
Right.
No, evidence proves causation, not explanation. That explanation might as well be maths.
No, I don't think that's
the
true.
hypothesis has the causation in it, right? That's
No, evidence has the causation in it. Hypothesis never has causation. If otherwise, you wouldn't need an experiment.
Correct.
No, but I'm saying that
test a hypothesis.
in the end, what we're trying to create is a comprehensive explanation of the entire mechanism.
Well, let's start off with the observation of what happens, and that is we know that masses attract one another, and that causes on the Earth things to fall towards the centre of it at 9.8 meters per second per second.
Hang on, we don't know that.
We know that exactly.
No, that is your assumption as to what causes the effect of gravity.
So you're denying that things fall towards the centre of the Earth at 9.8?
No.
So hold on. What's the? Hold on. What's the observed phenomenon, Rumpus? What's the observed phenomenon?
The observed phenomenon is that things fall towards the Earth at 9.8 meters per second in a vacuum.
So what's your hypothesis?
The
Let's hear. Hold on. Let's hear.
You don't need a hypothesis.
Let's hear your independent and dependent variables.
It's a theoretical phenomenon.
Hold on.
That doesn't happen.
Rumpus has already put in his chat.
Hold on.
Let's hear Rumpus give us his hypothesis.
Gravity.
Hold on. Let's hear the hypothesis.
Ladies and gentlemen, the deepest we've ever dug a hole is 7 kilometers.
Sorry, let's not
don't even say that. What a stupid thing to say. Just
so we
go away.
never fired anything through the Earth. Therefore, it's a theory. We've never done it.
I've only
go away.
I talked about on the surface.
Why would you say that?
I've talked about on the surface of the Earth. We observed that things fall towards the surface, to the centre of the Earth, at 9.8 meters per second. We also know.
Oh, you almost said it right.
Hold on. We also know that masses attract one another. In the laboratory, we can get two masses and they attract one another with the same force, and we can measure the mass of the mass of the Earth, and they all agree with one another.
We can't measure the mass of the Earth.
So let's go through what Rumpus knows with an adherence to the scientific method. So let's hear the hypothesis. We've had the observed phenomena.
No, come on. Let's not do that nonsense again.
Not the scientific method.
What? Sorry, not the scientific method? No, absolutely the scientific method. So I'm going to ask Rumpus again for his hypothesis, please.
Well, first of all, we start off with an observation of a phenomenon, and that's
what was that again? Let's hear that. Let's summarize. Let's summarize what you've told us. So, what's your observed phenomenon? Maybe you should bring up your screen. I'll put you on screen, Rumpus. Okay. Let's write it all down. Do you want to bring it up your screen?
That makes everything much clearer.
Let's write it down, Rumpus. Let's bring up your screen.
Hey, Rumpus, just so you know, you've kind of derailed this whole thing now. You've given them their in to just talk about nonsense.
So he's given my in to talk about something he has claimed is true, that the whole body of science backs, and I'm asking him to go through his adherence to the scientific method. So this crap can all come off screen, Rumpus. We just need your Word document open so you can write down, first and foremost, the observed phenomena.
Right, okay.
See what you've done, Rumpus? Like, all of a sudden, you're on now, and Nathan's got that tone of voice now. This is what's
wrong.
happening.
Where am I wrong?
Toast to the fire! Toast to the fire!
Oh, toast to the fire!
Wait. Boy, why are you trying to screw him up? He has a point to make. He's trying to make a point.
But don't you understand? Don't you understand that that's what this show is about? Is conflating points.
Stop. Sorry, what the hell is this? Do you not understand what science is? What's this word vacuum doing in there?
Why is he writing?
Shut up! What is this word vacuum doing in there? Aren't we studying the natural world?
Physical phenomena?
Shh. Yeah, I mean...
Shh. Asking Rumpus a question, I want an answer. Why is this word vacuum in there?
Yeah, it's what
Rumpus, you've just killed this.
Thank you.
Well, now they're
wanna know
going to
why the
start to
word center of
conflate
the earth
that
is there. That
a
is an
vacuum is
assumption
not
that he cannot
naturally
prove.
occurring phenomena,
So
right,
what?
Nathan?
No
yeah,
shit.
yeah. Prove a
That's not
vacuum
observed.
like
You don't
against
observe
a
it falling
pressurized
to the
system.
center of the earth. You can't observe the center of
Why?
the earth.
Sorry, has Rumpus failed to adhere to the scientific method on step 1?
No.
See,
How has he failed,
see the
Nathan?
voice that Nathan
No,
gets
he
now
took
that
vacuum
Rumpus...
Sorry,
out.
maybe if you can all shut up for a
Oh
second,
my
we can get an
God.
answer.
He's got a
Sorry.
spelling mistake. Kill him.
Josh, try and button it. Let's get an answer from the Rumpus. Why is this
Who
word
cares about
vacuum in
spelling?
there?
Yes, correct. Well done, Rumpus.
Oh yeah, you got to capitalize that. Oh my God.
What's the sure face of the Earth?
Surface.
Oh,
and
I
remove the
see.
center. There is no. You have no. You can't observe the
Sorry.
What do you mean we have
center.
no proof?
I'm going to ask it again. I seem to be getting talked over and ignored.
Guys.
We are talking about a study of the natural world. So,
This is
Rumpus,
natural world.
tell me where there is a naturally occurring vacuum, please.
In space.
That's not. You're not using that. in the
Sorry,
right context,
we are not
Nathan.
talking about space. We're talking
You
about
said
the natural
Space
world.
is part of the natural world.
No. Have we... Sorry, are we going to go to space to do this experiment, Rumpus?
No.
So, what the hell?
You're
How
gonna need a
the hell am
template.
I going to verify this?
You don't
Need
need
a
to.
template.
You
What
don't
if I
need
had
to
it?
use the
Whoa,
word vacuum.
sorry, let's just hold the phone a second here. I don't need to verify this bullshit? Yeah, I will absolutely require to verify it, and if it's done in space, it can't be verified by me.
Say it was done in
Number
space.
one,
It's not
you
done in space.
assert there is a
Listen.
vacuum in space, so
Yes,
is there a
but I didn't-
scientific...
but
Is
my
there
observation is
scientific
not-
evidence
is not-
for a vacuum in space? Do you want to go back and show us that before you start asserting it in your
Well, I
observed
can
phenomenon
create a
that we
vacuum.
don't
Oh my
have
God, Nathan,
as a
you're showing-
naturally occurring thing on
I
Earth?
can create a vacuum on the surface.
Are
of the
you
Earth.
dumb? I couldn't care less what you can create when we are observing natural things. You do not have a naturally occurring vacuum, you moron.
Anything we can create in reality.
Not create. Are you deaf and stupid? We are talking about a study of the natural world, not something you create, you complete and utter dumbass.
You're an idiot, Nathan. If you can't accept that vacuum is part of the reality,
I can create a lawnmower, right? But if I test and study a lawnmower, it is not a study of the natural world, you dumbass.
Of course it is.
No, it's a study of a lawnmower, you complete buffoon. What part of natural don't you understand, you complete and utter retard? Are you really this stupid? Vacuums are not naturally occurring.
Doesn't matter.
Rumpus, you can
It
remove
does
the word
matter
vacuum,
when we're
it'll
studying the
still work.
natural world, you complete retard. Go back and learn the definition of science, you
And you got
idiot.
it wrong. It's not natural in the sense you're talking about. Natural.
I'm talking about natural in every sense, not
No, reality is what we're
created
studying.
vacuums.
Reality. Vacuums are part of reality.
We need to go back to where
Sorry,
this word natural
vacuums are part of reality.
It was about natural philosophy, which was in it,
Right.
as opposed to supernatural. Not
Thank you.
You can
Ladies
remove
and
the word
guys,
vacuum,
you
it'll
know,
still
I came up
work.
with a way to basically solve this problem. Man will survive anything nature will throw at him.
Yeah, I'll just summarise. Rumpus failed at the first hurdle. So, absolutely not an adherence to the scientific method. In no way a study of anything natural. Total bullshit to back it up. Telling me that I'm wrong. Blah, 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 blah. The usual nonsense.
So that is our observed phenomenon. That's what we observe.
No, it isn't. I'll stop sharing you, you idiot.
That is, well, that's what we observe. You don't like it, Nathan. You're denying reality because that's what we observe.
Vacuum. You don't need
Where?
it.
Where did you observe a vacuum? Tell me. Stop. Where
I
did
have
you?
I have
I
7
don't give- I
videos
don't-
on YouTube
I
showing
don't
a
give a
vacuum
shit
chamber.
about
Sorry, was it a
anybody
naturally
else.
occurring vacuum?
You're a reality
Stop,
denier.
Stop.
Was
When
it
did
a
you-
naturally occurring vacuum,
you-
Philip?
No, I'm not asking.
It's natural.
I'm not asking.
Nathan, we're studying the physical sciences. We're studying
Yeah,
how
we're studying
objects
physical
move.
sciences. We're studying reality.
Yes or no?
Science is reality.
Was it, yes or no, a naturally occurring vacuum?
Objects
Vacuums are part of reality.
accelerate until they achieve.
Are they a
terminal
part of the
velocity.
natural world, Rumpus?
Just change it. Objects
It is part
in
of the
a,
natural world,
objects.
yes. You're using
Where-
nature.
Objects will accelerate until they achieve
You're
terminal
using nature as
velocity.
in life.
Stop.
Yeah, you're all
Stop.
morons.
Let's-
Don't know what
as
the word
in
natural
Rumpus,
means.
tell
Look it
us
up.
where the
Your
vacuum
word
is
science is
for me to
interested
go
in
look at.
Science
being
is
so
the study
damn
of the natural
stubborn and
world,
just
Rumpus.
remove
That's
the
what
word
science
vacuum.
is, and we don't have naturally occurring vacuums. Don't know how many times I've got to say this to you. Doesn't matter how many bloody vacuums Philip's got in his basement. They're not naturally occurring.
They are
Are they?
natural. You're going to deny. You're saying that science can't
Delete
study vacuums. Is that what you're saying? You're saying science can't study
Yeah,
vacuums.
science can
delete
create
vacuum,
vacuums.
say,
Wow.
until they achieve
So it's
terminal
amazing.
velocity.
Nathan's saying vacuums are off limits to science. What
No.
a
Delete vacuum.
I'm asking
and
you a simple
say
question.
until it gets
Where
to
can you
terminal
show me
velocity.
a naturally
Nathan,
occurring
stop.
vacuum?
Nathan said
Simple.
there's no vacuum in space that you
No.
can
He's denying. He's denying science.
vacuum
He's denying
and
science.
say
Vacuum.
terminal
He's saying
velocity.
science cannot study vacuums.
Rumpus is very triggered. Clearly very triggered because he's failed.
So you don't believe science can study
Right,
vacuums?
calm down,
No,
Rumpus. You're very triggered.
Nathan, are you claiming science can't
Calm
study
down,
vacuums? Is that your
Rumpus.
position?
Calm down.
Is that your position?
Calm down.
Do you believe that science
Calm
can't
down,
study
Rumpus.
vacuums?
You're getting very
Is that your
agitated.
position?
You failed. We don't have
Is
naturally
that your
occurring
position that
vacuums.
science can't study
Try
vacuums?
to calm down.
Delete vacuum.
Seem to have
Are you
OCD.
Do you think science cannot study vacuums? I want to know.
Right. Is there a naturally occurring vacuum you can show me, Rumpus?
And do you believe we're allowed to...
That's not an answer. Yeah? I'm asking you the same question over and over again and you're trying to get tricky with me. It's amusing to the audience. They all started super chatting when I started holding your toes to the fire. So they like it. They think it's fun. But if you don't understand that we don't have naturally occurring vacuums, then you
science
are
study vacuums,
then
Nathan?
you are retarded.
Can science study vacuums, Nathan?
Can I have an independent variable?
Stop being so
I think I
stubborn.
Can science study vacuums, Nathan? I want to know if you believe that science is.
Yeah, but that's not a naturally observed phenomena, you idiot. Come on.
how many times
Well,
have
you
you
say
said
science can't study vacuums
It's
as well.
not a naturally occurring
Do you
phenomena.
believe science can study vacuums?
Yeah, that's very nice
So
and all
it's
that you can
science can
study it.
vacuums.
It's
Right,
not a
I'm glad.
natural observation.
Excellent. Thank
Stop
you very
being
much,
so
Arnold.
damn
Listen,
stubborn.
I want-
Don't say anything more. So now,
just
does Nathan still believe that science can't study vacuums? I want to know if Nathan's on that.
But that's not the point. It's not a naturally occurring phenomena.
That's
Just
irrelevant. We're talking
remove
about
the
what
damn
science
word
can do.
vacuum
Something
and
that
let's
can
get
be
on
done.
with it.
Science can do.
We're
Can
talking about
science
physical
study
sciences.
vacuums?
Physical
Can
sciences
science
don't
study
care about
vacuums?
the natural world. Care about
sorry,
what we-
science, Philip, is a study of the natural world. Whether or
And
not
does that
your
include
particular
vacuums?
crappy group of scientists care about that doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Do you
You're not
believe
going to
science can study
redefine
vacuums?
science here, Philip, okay?
And can
physics,
science study
natural and
vacuums?
natural and physical.
You can
sciences
strap on
that
whatever you
involve
like,
the
mate.
Study of math.
Yeah, you can strap it on because that's your field, mate. You're a philosopher. Yeah? You can do that if you like, but a science and the definition's never going to change. It's a study of the natural world, whether you like it or not.
And does that include the
I
study
don't
of
understand
vacuums?
philosophy then.
Oh, sorry. I don't understand what?
You don't understand philosophy.
Philosophy? No, we're not talking about philosophy here. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about science, which is a study of the natural world. So go back to your vacuum chambers in your basement and kid yourself that that's a naturally occurring phenomena.
Is he doing science doing that, Nathan? That's the
Oh,
question.
would he now? Would he now, Rumpus?
Where-
You can tell yourself he's doing science, and you can tell the world he's doing science. I don't care what you think you're doing, because science is a study of the natural world. And as Arwin keeps telling you over and over again, we don't have naturally occurring vacuums.
So what? There's still science can still study them.
So what? We can just assert it and keep going forward.
So you're claiming it isn't. You're claiming science cannot include the study of vacuums. Is that your point?
No,
Stop
I've made my
being
point
biased.
over and over again.
No,
it's
it's
not
not science
a
'cause it's not
naturally
natural.
Yes. Well,
occurring
if you're
Not
phenomenon.
natural.
definition of science, there,
Yeah.
Rumpus,
You're an
are
idiot.
you
Oh, it is
a
natural.
masochist? Are you
It is
really
natural,
a
and
masochist?
Nathan-
Or are
Sorry,
you going
Nathan, I'm going to have to
move on?
disagree with you on this one.
Admit
You're an
that
idiot,
vacuum
Nathan. We
are
all
not
think you're an idiot.
You cannot
I don't think you're an
naturally
idiot, but I
observe
think
a
that...
vacuum.
Oh, we do. We do all think he's an idiot.
Can I
I don't
explain
think that is-
something really quick? Stop. Can I just explain something to all of you? Okay, no one's questioning the fact that there's a vacuum and you can create one. Nobody on this planet is going to question that. What we are asking you, what the flat earth community is asking you, where have you seen a vacuum?
We don't care. Study of stars can
Where have
things.
you
We can
seen
study
one?
black holes. Doesn't matter. We see when
No,
Of
you
course, go
Philip's
ahead,
got one in
study
his
it
laboratory. Science
in a
is the study of
laboratory.
reality, and it doesn't matter whether you've got one outside your back door or you've got
naturally
ejected from.
observed.
Where
phenomena,
is there a
Rumpus.
vacuum?
Naturally
in Philip's laboratory and in space.
No.
And in space. So where can we go and observe it? How do we get to space to observe
is
it?
there a vacuum?
Space is much more natural,
time,
apparently.
it's very small.
So how do we verify that? How do we verify that, Rumpus? Have you been to space? You lying little toad.
Yeah, I've been to space, yeah.
You liar.
I have.
You liar.
Because I didn't go the last time, I
such a
decided to catch
masochist,
on with the
Rumpus.
You're
last
just a
one.
liar. So Rumpus lies again because he's a liar. We don't get to go to space. You haven't been. You're just a liar. Yeah, you can laugh at your lies.
Science is not allowed to study a vacuum. You are an you're even a
No, I keep asking you the same question when you make that assertion and straw man the hell out of me. I ask you a question in response. Where can I find a naturally occurring vacuum? I ask you a specific question.
Okay, sorry, carry on.
I keep asking you, and you straw man me and misrepresent my argument. I ask you, where can we find a naturally occurring vacuum?
It doesn't matter, Nathan.
Oh, so it doesn't matter. Right. So that's not important. We're studying natural things in the natural world, but where they are occurring doesn't matter because we can just reproduce them in Phil's basement, right? If it doesn't exist in the natural world, we'll just produce it, right? It's not important. We can just create these things. That's absolutely fascinating. I couldn't care less what you create in your basement.
No, but humans are part of the natural world, and what we create is part of the natural world. I'm sorry, Nathan, I think that we have to back up here and define what is meant by natural in this context, because the studying of effects in vacuums would fall under the purview of natural philosophy or science, for sure, in my opinion.
But that's fair enough, Nami. I'm not going to disagree. Hold on. I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you, Nami. What I am going to do is ask the same question. Where can I find a naturally occurring vacuum?
You might as well ask
any vacuum that you find is a naturally occurring vacuum.
Where can I go for a walk? Guys, where can I go for a walk? Tell me where on the planet I can go for a walk.
That's not what natural means.
I've got a question for Nathan. I've got a question for Nathan. Nathan, do you understand the way you do science? You try and remove variables. You try and get down to one aspect, your independent variable you might be concerned with, to the exclusion of all those. So you can just vary that one variable. And in a vacuum, you can do that and then see how things fall. So you're not affected by the buoyancy effects of being in air or water. So what you do is you create a vacuum and then you can isolate it from all other effects. So you can measure the force of gravity in isolation. That's why you do such things.
You're begging the question. You're assuming gravity already.
For other reasons.
You're already assuming that gravity is an accelerative force 9.8 meters per second downwards. You're already assuming that. You're begging the question.
That's a hypothesis.
Nathan, that's gravity.
He's assuming that when you drop that
We're not assuming anything.
Philip, I thought you told me he'd accepted this earlier. He's not accepting it at all, is he? He's
Not
an idiot.
Nathan.
Who's breathing down their mic?
Oh, God. So
Whoever's
Nathan's letting
breathing
what he
down their
doesn't
mic,
want.
stop breathing down their mic.
Guys, NASA dropped 2 objects in a vacuum, and that has been debunked that they faked the entire experiment.
No, it hasn't.
Okay. So why do I have 7 videos from YouTubers doing the same exact experiment?
You're an idiot. If you think that's the case, you're an absolute idiot, whoever that was. Who made that
Get
comment
back
about
to the
faking it.
observation of a naturally occurring phenomena, not
I think
a
we
very
need to understand the
unusual
history of this word natural.
circumstances phenomena.
No, we
You
just
create
need to
a highly
ignore it and then just use
electrified
another
room,
word that doesn't
and
imply
then things
something
will
outside the
have
background.
different
explain it to
properties.
the-
That's
Yeah,
not
I think it's
natural
important to-
either. Just as a vacuum
I
is
wanna
not natural.
explain it to
Can
the
we get
flat
back to the
earthers here, okay?
naturally
Like, how does-
occurring phenomena that you're
Go ahead.
observing?
Can we just let
How
me
hard
hold
is it?
on?
Don't use the word. Use another
Hold on,
word, like,
everybody,
no,
hold
reality.
on. If
I'm
you've
in
got
reality.
misapprehensions,
this one.
I'd rather Nummy actually got the opportunity to explain them. And a big shout out to Shill Scanner and Joey Slive for the super chats.
We just say let's say science is the study of reality, and then sod all this.
I was just going to say
mixing up
something
with.
for a second here. Okay.
Just let him talk. Yeah.
Which is just that this word, the word natural, came up in the context of academic study as natural philosophy, which evolved into science, and it meant as opposed to supernatural in terms of explanation. Like it meant to study phenomena rather than to take the word of the Bible as a definitive explanation as to, the questions of scientific nature. And so this word natural doesn't I don't know, in the more in the non-secular contemporary atmosphere, the word has come to sort of
it's got multiple meanings, and Nathan's using it in one particular one that he happens to fancy.
No, it doesn't really have multiple meanings. It has multiple. It has a lot of misunderstanding.
I haven't defined it as anything. Why are you misrepresenting a question that I keep asking? I keep asking the same question.
Use the word natural, and it's
where
irrelevant.
can I find a naturally occurring vacuum?
And it's irrelevant because
how are you defining natural, Nathan?
Why is it irrelevant?
Vacuum is naturally occurring
as well.
What if like a fish?
You've got this obsession with the word natural, and that's not. You've got the incorrect definition of science because you don't understand the definition of natural.
Right.
You've got
It doesn't change my question. It doesn't change my question in the slightest. Where can I find one that naturally occurs?
Well, actually, they do occur. Actually, they do occur in plants when they drag water up with transpiration. They do actually use similar to vacuum effects to do that, and it's also used. Some animals actually use it to fling liquid and things. And it's also used in. Whenever you click your joints, for instance, you create a vacuum then. In your joints. It's happening all over the shop.
You're asserting these things, but I've seen alternative criteria met in terms of explanation for why plants draw water up using electromagnetic explanations.
Well,
so you're asserting something in terms of where a naturally occurring vacuum occurs. Cite your evidence. Prove that that's where a vacuum actually occurs.
Okay, what's your question, Nathan? Your breaking up was.
Well, it comes down to the definition of natural. Here.
Exactly. Nathan's decided to pick on something he finds out his back door rather than instead of being reality, which is what science studies. You can create anything that you've never ever met before.
I haven't asserted anything. I haven't not asserted a thing. I've asked a question. Where can I find one? Where can I find this state? That's what I've asked.
In Phil's
and you keep telling me when I ask it that it's irrelevant, and then you misrepresent my argument, which I haven't made. I've asked a question specifically about where to find this state occurring.
In Philip's laboratory and in the joints of your fingers when you click them.
All right, evidence, please. I don't know that. You're just asserting it. I don't know that there's a vacuum naturally occurring in my fingers.
The point of a vacuum I mentioned in that text was to
crack your
isolate
knuckles.
other
Drop a
effects
microphone.
on falling
You guys just love to assert this crap.
You cannot be. I can't believe you having to try to deny that things fall in vacuums.
You've also asserted that a vacuum effect, or not unlike a vacuum effect, draws water up into plants. And I've said, well, there's alternative explanations for that.
And it's wrong. It's capillary force that does that. There's no vacuum being created there. It's ridiculous.
It's quite complicated.
Here we go.
Capillary force. It's not a vacuum.
What kind of person...
Siphoning, sucking.
A plant can create a vacuum.
It was recently discovered how plants transpire, and they might, for instance, very tall trees draw up air much higher than the 30 meters you might think. And they do it via some very clever tricks, and it's quite involved. But it's the point. Is utterly right. The point is the concept is that we're having a vacuum.
There is no vacuum. It's temperature changes.
Falling. And that's the whole point.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and for hopefully sharing this debate. And also a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!